It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy, Christina, and Jason are here. We're going to talk about the fight between Apple and OpenAI. It continues, and it's getting brutal. Why Pavel Durov is upset about Telegram's takedown and what it really means. Plus, the Chinese RAM company Apple was counting on says, yeah, no. All of that and more coming up on MacBreak Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 1037, recorded Tuesday, August 11th, 2026. Mechanical Donut. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show that covers the latest Apple news with Christina Warren from GitHub. Hello, Christina, where she's in developer relations.
Hello.
And a Frontier AI pioneer, Ms. Copilot 2026.
Leo's coffee there. Leo's drinking his coffee. He's caffeinated. Watch out.
Also, that would be Jason Snell,
Hello.
who's narrating golf style.
Yeah, that's right. We're at the 13th
picks
hole
up
now.
his coffee.
Leo's brought his coffee
He's
up
now
with
sipping
him.
his coffee.
Yes.
Hello, Jason Snell. 6 colors. You've been busy. A busy guy. We'll
Busy
talk
times. Lots of busy
about
to busy summer,
all
as
the colors.
it so often is.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. I filed the GitHub issue just moments ago. So, Christine, I'm flying the flag, the GitHub flag.
Love the GitHub.
Nice.
I found a bug. I had to file an issue. It happens.
Love the Git.
Amazing.
I want to tell you, my agents are always saying, hey, you want to file a bug report? And I always say, no. They probably know. Also here, there's something about you, Andrew, that is odd, and I'm trying to figure it out. Andrew Notko, he's never looked so good.
I did change to a different brand of body wash. It used to be herbal organics. Now it's sort of like a cherry wood and like fresh sea
I can
breeze.
smell it over here. Where are you, Mr. Inako? Where are you?
I am just not. Is it a vacation when you just decide I'm going to take a week and just like visit friends in various places? So
yes.
I am in Maryland, not far away from a government science facility.
Okay. I'm not sure what I'm to take from that.
Where they keep the alien bodies.
I will say that it is lovely to be broadcasting from a sofa for the first time.
I know you look
quite a long
comfortable.
time. It's like,
there's something else you shaved or something? Is this? Did you have another style of facial hair at some point?
not since 1992.
What is it?
Thanks to baseball
I
cap.
did. Okay, I did. Well, I did like just about before I left on this trip. I did get a haircut and I did like trim, give myself the full. Trim.
They're not so bushy as they were. Maybe that's it.
Exactly, but once every few weeks, I try to get it from there at the narrow end. There's John Lennon 1965. I want them to be fuller than that without being as full as like the full Asimov. So
Perfect.
Somewhere in the middle is the usual target.
And as usual, I'm exactly the same as I ever was. Let us talk about no. I'm not
Same as it ever was.
Same as it ever was.
So,
Let's start with OpenAI, because this is going to be, I think, an ongoing scenario here. Apple has asked for an injunction, a court injunction, to prevent more harm. I don't think, last I checked, the judge hadn't ruled on that. I don't know if the judge is going to give Apple an injunction. I don't even know what the injunction would be. Like, knock it off, OpenAI. OpenAI also went to the judge and say, Your Honor, dismiss this lawsuit. It was filed without adequate investigation. In fact, I really enjoyed the little brief that OpenAI wrote. Which depending on your point of view, this was whiny or it stuck it to the fruit company. Apple's getting this wrong. Apple, wrote OpenAI, is one of the greatest companies of all time and built a reputation for obsessing over the smallest details. This careless, aggressive, and oddly personal lawsuit, sadly, does not live up to that reputation. And they go over some of the points we've already gone over, like that Apple's outside attorneys emailed the wrong person after, quote, confusing 2 Asian last names. And only after we brought this to their attention. Apple claimed they had a discussion with our general counsel, which they now admit never happened. Is that true? Or is that, but this is the problem, is I don't know. This is an adversarial.
I don't know. We talked about this a little last week, and it feels to me very much like somebody at OpenAI was really mad and was like, we got to write a blog post. And I don't think it's a very good blog post, and I don't think it serves them very well. And the irony is that then they filed a legal filing from their law firm, Quinn Emanuel, that is much more forceful and detailed and shows that they actually do have deep disputes about some of what Apple did. But the blog post is like, I don't know. It's kind of like PR. It's kind of like just trying to cloud the waters and make people not.
It's not a legal filing, as you point out.
No,
it is more for us. It's for
It's. I think The Verge called it, the court of public opinion is what the blog post is for. I thought it was funny because the actual court filing is much better. it's much better, much clearer about where Apple. And again, I mean, the court filing also contains a lot of things. They're like. That I could lift an eyebrow about, like the idea that the reason that they took the Apple offboarding document and used it with the people they were recruiting was just to remind them of what they should do and not do. It was just a helpful thing to help Apple,
far-fetched.
Really. And it's like the all the questions about what I do with my stolen Apple documents are answered by the stolen Apple documents on my T-shirt kind of thing going on there. But it's a much stronger case that they make that essentially, if I'm not a lawyer, okay, but I'll say it this way. I think that the legal case that they're making is very interesting because what they're basically saying is, what is a trade secret? I don't see any, which is funny because what I don't think it does is deny anything about that there may be a whole plan inside OpenAI to get people out of Apple with everything they know and with documents, which is the difference between, like people taking documents out of their employer is not the same as people taking their knowledge out of their employer. And I'm a big fan of the idea that if you're a worker and you want to go somewhere else, you should be able to. But that's sort of what Apple is alleging is it's more than that. It's actually this kind of conspiracy to get all sorts of documents, technical documents outside. And what OpenAI's lawyer's response is, which I think is actually really smart, is show us the trade secret that was violated here. Show it to us, which is not saying that they didn't have this whole strategy. It's just saying, where is the illegality here? And I don't think it's necessarily going to win a lot of hearts if they say, look, the stuff we stole, we were allowed to steal, but legally, if that's the case, there's no case here.
They also said we did it to help the Apple employees who contacted Tang Tan saying, hey, I need some stuff. Tang Tan just happened to have access. Apple said it is not an iCloud failing. It's not.
Well, yeah, there is an also argument. It's not so much with Tang Tan. It's with that other guy who left.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one of the arguments is like, look, Apple's cloud document practices were bad, and like I think we're all going to agree that that's true.
Yes.
But it is a weird argument to make that might be successful. That is, look, they left that stuff out, and so we took it.
Yeah.
Finders keepers, and like finders keepers may not be a legal argument.
Doesn't work that way. Sorry.
So I don't know. I want to try like. I see a lot of people are very polarized on this, just like, oh, Apple's so right here or OpenAI so right. And I'm like, I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe where this is going is that Apple's got some real kind of like moral points here, but does it have legal points? And I think that was the big thing I got out of the filing from the legal filing was, again, I think it comes down to show us the trade secrets being violated here. And I think Apple's response will probably be, that's why we need discovery, because we've only seen the tip of the iceberg here. And what have you stolen from us underneath the surface? And that's what they're going to fight about.
Apple actually, the information says, and I don't know if this is confirmed, although the information's usually pretty good, that when employees join Apple, they do get their own, company iCloud account, but they're encouraged to connect it to their personal account.
Right.
Yes.
And that when you leave the company, well, of course, your personal account continues, and there may, in fact, be confidential documents on the personal devices.
Yeah, if you there's like it like mounts an extra folder in iCloud that is your Apple stuff, and if you copy stuff elsewhere, it doesn't disappear when your Apple stuff disappears. That seems to be the deal. Which is true, by the way, which is true of anything. If you copy something off of a cloud service to somewhere not controlled by your employer, like, I mean, I've been gone a long time, but I'll just say that did all my email from IDG get deleted when I left IDG? It didn't, because I copied it to another computer and when I turned off my email accounts, those emails are still there, right? Like that kind of stuff happens all the time. It's just that Apple seems to have done this in a weird way.
Well, yeah, exactly. I was going to say that the problem is I think, and frankly, this doesn't mean that anybody should be allowed to take things they shouldn't take without permission or anything like that, but Apple's ID system and the fact that you can only be except for very specific circumstances, logged into really one iCloud account at a time because of the primitive nature of how Apple accounts exist, because they're brittle, as all of us who've used them know, do that. The fact that you can't easily switch between accounts, I think that makes it more likely for people to have overlap than you might have at other institutions that had, multiple accounts through Google, for instance, right? Microsoft accounts are also a little bit complicated, but they do make it easier, at least like default, not on a phone device, but on a computer, to be able to switch between the two universes relatively easily. And you see different drives appearing, in your sidebar or whatever the case may be. You'll see OneDrive personal, OneDrive business. And with Google, there are ways, obviously, you can copy things from one drive to another, move things from one account to another, even from an internal Google employee drive. But it's not one of those things where they're telling you in onboarding, we need you to log in on your work devices with your personal accounts, because that's the only way you can access certain things. And this is going to now become a more difficult, data residency practice, because if I accidentally saved it to the wrong thing or clicked the wrong link from the wrong place, stuff can get intermingled. I don't think that's a legal defense, to be honest with you, for at least in terms of OpenAI. I don't think the fact that it's a pain, to be able to switch between things is a legal defense. But I do think that if it comes down to if the argument is, was this intentional or was this not, which it might come down to, I think that there will be at least something to be said for, okay, well, you've made it very difficult for me to keep my two worlds separate. And as part of your own official processes, you literally tell me to essentially link these two accounts together.
Yeah, what's weird about it is that, Apple's allegations are that there's a plan here, right? That it's not like, whoops, I ended up with documents. It's like telling people to copy documents. And like, to me, that's what it ends up coming down to. OpenAI's story here is basically like, no, we don't want it. We don't have a plan. Some stuff got commingled. It was never in any direction. In fact, we were passing information back to Apple, which is one of the stories that I think is really interesting, which is like people's manager left to go to OpenAI, and they're like, and we've all dealt with this, right? Where somebody leaves your company and you're like, oh, what is the answer to this question? And you try to contact the person who's left your company. And some of those people are like, I don't care, goodbye. And other people are like, I will help you. And OpenAI is like, we did some of that. Like, they're helping out their friends back at Apple. It's not a big deal. And Apple's allegations are, no, you had a whole system to exfiltrate documents. And like, that's what it's going to come down to. So it's a little bit silly to have it be like, oh, was there a secret Apple document that happened to be on that person's hard drive at home? It's like, well, if it happened to be there, what are we even doing here? But if it was copied as a part of a plan, then it's different. But how do you prove that?
How do you prove that? And I would just also ask that case, like, I understand directly suing the individuals that you think are involved in that, but I think it takes a much bigger leap to then say, oh, the company itself, OpenAI, was responsible for this. That's and obviously Apple's point is that's what we need the discovery for. But I also understand OpenAI pushing back and going, no. We're not going to let you have access to all of our files and everything else in a wild goose chase just because you have some evidence that some of our employees might have handled data in an unideal way. because to me, like 1 + 1 does not necessarily equal 2 there. Like you have to actually, to me, like very much like prove like that there was a conspiracy and that this was a directed like OpenAI practice where employees are being told at an employee level, this is what you need to do so that we can gain access to these documents versus, the way, because the text that they released could be read a number of ways. One, it could be people are sharing things they shouldn't be sharing, or it could be to your point, because I've certainly had this happen where I've created a document, I've left a company, somebody doesn't know where something is, or they say, hey, this was on your personal drive. Can you share this with me because I need to use this? And I'm like, yes, of course. Right. Some people might say, no, I'm not going to do that. But in my mind, I'm like, no, if I had this on my personal drive, it, in almost all cases, wasn't because I was trying to hoard. For my personal case, it was never because I was trying to hoard anything that I didn't have access to. It was usually a permissions issue where I had to have it on my personal drive because that was the only way that I could present something. And so I'm like, yes, I will delegate and even change ownership to you directly. It's not clear to me what the circumstance is here, but it feels like it's a bit of a stretch to just immediately go to some documents existed and we have some text messages from employees that talk about these documents to there was a high level conspiracy in the company to direct people towards, not only saving data when they left in a way that would not be, understood or infiltrated, but then to continue to pass information back and forth after they've left the company.
By the way, I apologize to everybody for relitigating this, if you will, but we're getting more information. Actually, John Gruber, while we were doing the show last week, kind of published some interesting stuff, which sounds like he has somebody inside Apple talking to him. For instance, he says that whole thing about emailing the wrong person. Gabriel Gross, the outside attorney, sent one email to the wrong address, quickly emailed an apology. And it was a short email. It wasn't the full, cease and desist. That was sent to the appropriate person, OpenAI's general counsel, Che Chang, and Chang never did respond to Apple's lawyers. Now, this is Gruber talking. I don't know where he's getting this information from.
Somebody at Apple, probably.
Somebody at Apple. Yeah. He also says it wasn't, and Apple kind of implies this, it wasn't iCloud Drive, it was a third-party drive. He says it was Box.
Box. Apple does use Box. That is a standard.
I thought that was interesting. Yeah. It sounds like John has inside information, which he's not, of course, revealing. But there's a lot of information in this post John put up from last week. So I apologize for bringing it back up, but you know what? We're going to be talking about this for months,
and
years,
the story advanced because they did their legal filing, and that pushes this whole thing forward even further.
Yeah, the legal filing, I agree with Jason. I think it's much more interesting than the blog post, which I think is, partially PR exercise. But honestly, that's what Apple did too, right?
Yes,
like, I mean, I would argue that Apple's entire original legal filing was a PR move, and then we'll go beyond that. I will say, and I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know how to read this, I don't think it's really damning one way or another in terms of the emailing the wrong person. It certainly looks bad. But if I received incorrect communications as a lawyer and you had to address the wrong person and other things, and then I told you I don't know what this is, and they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that for you," I think that it's reasonable for someone to say, "I'm not going to respond to any of your communications now. You need to actually resend me, almost a new email and start over from scratch." Because I don't know, at this point, I don't know whatever it was intended from the beginning. So I could see that in either direction. But I think that getting, caught up on those details of, the wrong person was emailed or we didn't respond to the email, I think kind of misses the point because I can see both perspectives there.
Yeah, I mean, the entire blog post, like it's hard to take it seriously because it was just so poorly thought out. As Jason said, it really does smack of somebody high up saying that we have to hit back. I want something on the blog quickly, and most of for all the details, quote unquote, they put into it, it was a lot like a friend takes your car and wrecks it, and then when you say, "Look, you wrecked my car. What are you going to do about it?" And he says, "I didn't wreck it. I was able to drive it from the scene of the crash. So it's not wrecked." Like, you are missing the point. You're arguing semantics. You're not arguing the actual point, the point of discussion here. So yeah, that's why the legal filings are really the meat of the issue. Apple's filings, however, were you in the past 5 years, I think all of us have gotten 5 or 10 years with all the meaningful lawsuits that have been slung back and forth between different companies. We've all gotten into the habit of reading, like downloading and reading these PDFs. They are rarely as literary as what Apple filed about. Let me set the scene of what actually they've been doing, and let me see here's how they would prepare new interviewers for their meeting to bring hardware, bring this, bring that other. No legalese. They really are. It seemed as though this was a document that was meant to be read and then basically turned into news items about malfeasance, as opposed to we are seeking legal recourse to get a company to knock some stuff off. So they were playing the PR game from the very start. Not to say that they shouldn't have, but I'm saying that there is a lot of very, very careful usage of the media here.
And all of this over a donut-shaped smart speaker, because and I don't, this is the rumor that this is what OpenAI's vision of the future, as Fast Company puts it, is. It's a leaked device, a piece of hardware. This is something very Johnny Ive. It has moving parts inside it to indicate its thinking, which is hysterical. It comes from the love from studio. A smart speaker for $300 to $400. Yeah, I don't know. Everything's going to cost more, of course, including all of Apple's stuff. But I think we've seen these smart speakers from Amazon and Apple at this size. I don't know. But it's connected to ChatGPT. Is that the selling point?
Yeah,
anyway.
it's using their live version, future version of their live.
They actually have a very cool, and you can do it on your
technology.
iPhone now, streaming speech capability. So you have this conversation.
I hate it. Because it's trying too hard and it's inserting a lot of ums and uhs while I'm talking, and then every single time you say something to it, it does the filler sentence because it doesn't have an answer yet. And I've heard people say, "Oh, well, people do that." It's like they don't do it every single time, which is what it does. But they'll make it better. They'll make it more natural. And that's their killer app, is that they think ChatGPT is so great and conversational that you will want a device that you can, park or carry around your house that lets you interact with it. And, is it a smart speaker? Is it just kind of like an outgrowth of OpenAI into your house? I don't know. I think having ambient computing devices that you can talk to is not a bad idea. And if they were really smart, that would really help, because the current ones are not that smart. So I don't know about it's your droid companion that makes the wiggles a little or whatever. We'll see. We'll see about that. But
I'm going to buy one because I'm stupid, but I don't see it as a mass appeal. I'm wearing a shirt made out of corn. So, I'm the target audience for this.
It could be interesting. Remember that like a year ago, we're wondering if there was going to be some kind of a wearable, even something along the lines of a pen.
Let's be honest.
But the thing is, like, it's easy to underestimate a product like that if we're comparing them to the same sort of Google smart speakers they used to basically give away, like M&Ms. If we stop talking about a smart speaker and we start talking about an agentic speaker, meaning that, again, it's still just a speaker that has a reasonably good speaker in it and a good 360-degree microphone that can basically disappear in any decor, so it doesn't look like there's this big gadget there. But nonetheless, you can just basically, while you're tying your shoes, say, I want you to email everybody that I'm supposed to be meeting today. Make sure you collect the latest reports on this project and make sure everybody's up to date, and then create a new Google Doc in which they can basically assemble all theirs. Basically, if you give it the abilities of an actual human being to not just simply say, what is the weather, turn the thermostat up to 38 degrees, if it can actually it's actually doing things and making decisions based on your instructions, that would be something that maybe someone would be spending $200 or $300 for. And if OpenAI does have an agentic approach that is that effective, then yeah, you could. It's one of those things where just like we sold each one of us, I think, sold a lot of smart speakers to friends and family 10 years ago. When without even thinking about it, when we had a guest over, we just picked them up from the airport, got inside the house, and say, like, "Hey, Sammy, turn on the lights in the office, and what's the weather tomorrow?" And suddenly a voice gives these answers. Like, wait, what did you do that? Oh yeah, it's a smart speaker. It's this thing that Google now has or Amazon now has. So basically, agentic speakers could do the same thing.
I should give them a call because this is an ESP32, which cost me $60.
Yeah.
It has a motion sensor, has a moisture sensor, it has a screen, it has a speaker. I can talk to it. Hey, Quicksilver, it'll respond. It actually talks to me through my Sonos speakers. It also will do things like open the window shades. It'll play music on my Sonos speakers. It's connected to my local agent too, so it knows who I am. And knows more about me. And if I wanted to connect it to ChatGPT as the model, I could.
I think that is probably
easy to do.
Those are easy to do. And I think that honestly, kind of what Andy was talking about, the way that I would look at this, if this is in fact the direction they're going in, would be that it's much less about the hardware and the speaker itself, which to your point, Leo, and even what we've already seen is relatively rudimentary, right? It's a 360 microphone. It's a good sounding speaker. It's something that is, low
it was
power.
Invented 10 years ago.
But if you power that with, now you have a cloud-based always on agent, right? Because your system, Leo, you have a local agent that lives somewhere with you. And we have people who have like their own, Hermes or OpenClaw setups and whatnot. I could envision a world where if OpenAI is saying, we are going to give you your own cloud version, maybe it doesn't have all the
that's what they want. That's what they want. They want you to send all your data to them,
Absolutely.
And they want to store all your memories.
Well, yeah, but I'm going one step beyond that. Obviously, they want all that information, but I'm saying to Andy's point, if they can then do the powerful computing stuff, and I can then pick up and get that information from any number of devices, whether it's a web browser or an iPhone app or an iPad or something else, and I'm starting things off in my car by talking to it, or I'm in my living room and I'm talking to it, and then a few minutes later I'm getting an alert someplace else that this has now been delivered to me in a way that I can interact with it. I think that's powerful. And so in that sense, I think that the speaker aspect itself is rudimentary. Who cares? It's more about if this is what they're actually doing, if this is going to be the way that they get kind of cloud-based agents, so to speak, in people's homes, where people are going to be willing, perhaps for a subscription fee, I'm going to pay, $20 or $30 a month on top of, whatever my ChatGPT Plus subscription would be, to have the ability to do all of this additional processing, where it's connected to my email, it's connected to my documents, it's connected to other things, and it's just going to kick off those tasks for me, and I don't have to worry about how to set up, the hardware or anything on my end. It's just happening, and I can interact with it on a number of services, including voice.
Well, we'll find out. It's not even coming out this year.
Yeah.
But the timing of this leak kind of tells me that either OpenAI wants you to think Apple was trying to block it, or Apple was trying to block it.
Also, this is a Mark Gurman leak, and I would say I think his track record suggests that there are a lot of hardware designers and designers in general at Apple who leaked to him, and some of them went to OpenAI, and they're now leaking to him there. And OpenAI may want it. Gurman has also picked up things that were that OpenAI gave to him as sort of like statements, but not officially. So, I mean, this is clearly meant to be the narrative. The other thing I would say is, you said, Leo, is this what Apple's trying to stop? I wonder if this is not. I wonder if what Apple's trying to stop is whatever comes next, because this strikes me as being a real low-hanging fruit kind of product. It is the easiest product for OpenAI to make as a first product, which is their take on the smart speaker, except backed entirely by ChatGPT and whatever powers that they can give to it. And I think that's a great first move for them. This is not the kind of product, it strikes me, that you steal trade secrets for, but I don't know. But and we've heard that like they have a lot of other ambitions of things that are more phone-like or more wearable. This is not that. This is just a place to start. And I think, to Christina's point, it points the way for what table stakes are going to be And even putting this in an Apple perspective, I think that this is really interesting. Apple is just getting on the board with Siri AI. It's good enough to be functional. Great start. But you look, when you describe something that's more agentic, and you start to think, how do you compete in that space? And the answer probably involves Apple, especially since Apple can lean on the personal, and they're trying to do that with Siri AI, that it's on your devices. That means Apple is going to need to keep working on ways that whether it's your watch or your phone or your smart speaker, that it's able to talk to a device that has your personal information on it. And in terms of agentic actions, it probably means they need to keep pushing down the road that they've only barely started now, which is things like app intents. It's the idea that in the end, they probably need to create the ability for developers to have their functionality be, in the ecosystem, so that if I'm using my voice to talk to my Apple version of this, that it's able to go to my device with my personal information and run my apps that I paid for, and they have their knowledge bases, and that I can use that to do a personal version, a in my own home version of what OpenAI might be doing in its cloud. And it does feel to me, as Christina was talking about it, like that feels plausible for what the table stakes in this are going to be in the next 3-4 years. Is you're really, going to have to, Apple will have to compete in its own way with these more kind of how do you take things that are more agentic but also make them more friendly?
Well, again, there's a lot to play for amongst many players, chiefly because as Christina said, that if you have an AI that is not connected to this super stylish phone or this super stylish laptop, if people are just connecting it with this is the ghostly spirit that can live anywhere, okay, it becomes irrelevant whether you have and this becomes one of your most important tools to get you throughout the day, personally and professionally. It has the power to make the iPhone irrelevant as a specific brand choice.
Yeah, that's a good reason to be scared, huh?
And so this is the Coke or Pepsi moment. Like if you get people to be loyal to a certain product at this outset, where I use Gemini for nearly everything, not necessarily because I'm in the process every single month of doing a comparison between what's the latest model and how well does it all these things. After a year and a half, starting 2 years starting with Bard, for God's sake, I'm comfortable with it. I know exactly
Bard, we forgot all about you.
I mean, the thing is, I know how it works. I'm comfortable with it.
Predecessor
I've had good
to
results
Gemini,
with it.
we should mention.
So basically, OpenAI is not likely to win me as a customer, chiefly because I would have to test out a new product. I'd have to get used to its own rhythms. I would have to train it on my own data, so it knows when I'm talking about, hey, can I get my phone to do this? It knows that I'm referring to a Pixel 7 Pro running Android 17, all this other stuff. If Apple probably does not want to get itself in a situation where, as good as the iPhone is, it's just another device that runs Instagram or runs WhatsApp or runs whatever. And this use of agentic AI, once it arrives and people are able to do things like, hey, know that report I wrote yesterday? Check to see if I need to update it, and if nothing's changed, then send it to the usual group, and that it simply happens. That is something that it doesn't matter if it happens on an iPhone or not. So anything that I don't think that that's exactly why they're doing this against OpenAI, but they definitely have, like I said, everything to play for to make sure that people they want people to fall in love with Apple Intelligence, and they don't want them to form an emotional or professional commitment to any other AI at a point where everybody is still kind of shopping around and playing the game. It's the 1970s. Everybody's bed hopping. No one's ready to put a ring on it yet. But the 80s are coming, man. And at some point, they're going to have to settle down.
Don't forget what happened then, right? Okay. Let's take a break. There is other news. But I have a feeling we're going to have to create a theme song for the OpenAI versus Apple battle, because this will return like a bad penny every single week. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. Christina Warren, Andy Anako, and Jason Snell. Our show today brought to you by Horizon 3. Here's a name you need to know. The most dangerous threats are always the one you don't see coming. You know, the football that hits you in the back of the head. The feeling of uncertainty is one of the biggest challenges in cybersecurity. I know I've talked to many cybersecurity professionals. Last week, In fact, thanks to Micah for filling in for me last week. Last week, I was at Black Hat. And man, the palpable fear in the air. I mean, you can have the best people, the perfect stack, solid processes, but you never feel comfortable. There's always that, like, what am I missing? I know there's an opening here somewhere. That's where Horizon 3 comes in. Horizon 3 is an AI native, proactive security platform designed to show organizations exactly how an attacker could compromise their environment before that real threat gets the chance. It finds the gaps that you probably don't even know about. Horizon 3's autonomous AI hacker, they call it Node Zero, is relentless, right? It doesn't take a nap. It doesn't go to lunch. It safely and continuously tests your infrastructure at machine speed. And by the way, nowadays, that's exactly the same way a real attacker will. Finding areas that are vulnerable. It covers your entire attack surface in a single test, deploys in minutes, and so far they've run 225,000 plus production safe tests with zero downtime. What does that mean? It means you can stop guessing. You can stop worrying. You could start knowing your defenses are intact because Node Zero's result is a loop. And that's what you want. Hack, fix, verify, repeat. It finds the problem, you fix it, and in one click you confirm it's secure. Horizon 3, it's so good, it's trusted by NSA, the NSA, yes, CISA, yes, big Fortune 100 companies. Look, if they trust it, you know you can trust it too. See exactly what an attacker would find in your environment before they do. Go to horizon3.ai/MacBreak and request your free Node Zero demo. Visit horizon3.ai/MacBreak. Again, that's horizon3.ai/MacBreak. No commitment required. Results in hours, not weeks. This is what you need. Remember the URL. And please use the full one, horizon3.ai/MacBreak, just so I know that we get credit because we sent you. horizon3.ai/MacBreak. Yeah, it was really interesting wandering around Black Hat. And of course, the talk of Black Hat was that Hugging Face hack that OpenAI did. It's all anybody could talk about. And it really brought terror into the hearts of everybody at Black Hat. Of course, DEF CON followed immediately, which I wish I'd been able to go to, but I can imagine the victory laps that some of those hackers were taking. I'll tell you who's not taking a victory lap right now. It's Pavel Durov, the creator and founder of Telegram, who is mighty peeved. It scared the hell out of me, I have to admit. This was last week also. I don't think you talked about it. It happened. Maybe you did. It happened later on Tuesday. If you talk about, see, I wasn't here last week, so I don't know exactly what was talked about. So I woke up on Tuesday in Las Vegas at Black Hat to the news that Telegram had been, actually was the night before I left. The Telegram had been pulled from the App Store. Now, Telegram is important to me, not only because I love it as a messaging platform. I know it's not secure, but I love it as a messaging platform. It's fun, it's cool, but most importantly, I use it to talk to my AI. It's how it communicates with me on the phone and on the road. And I thought, man, this is a single point of failure. It turned out, by the way, it came back within a few hours. Not before I had completely removed my agent's interactions from Telegram to a Matrix server I was running myself, but that's another story. It came back, and it turned out that, and this is Pavel Durov was pretty miffed. He posted on X saying it was an extortionist. A bad guy had posted CSAM to a Telegram group, and then contacted Apple and said, there's CSAM on here, to which Apple responded by immediately pulling Telegram down. Durov writes, the attacker was a takedown extortionist, someone who demands ransom from group owners in exchange for not targeting their communities. They use automated accounts to plant illegal content in public groups and then report it directly to Apple, attempting to trigger the removal of legitimate communities whose owners refuse to pay them. Now, everybody knows Telegram is a hive of scum and villainy, among other things. But what messaging system isn't. Maybe Apple Messages, but Apple at least, I mean, I'm sure Pavel has a phone number of somebody, and Apple at least put it back. But he's very concerned about this single point of failure. Others have raised the point that Telegram might not be getting fair treatment, considering that X never was taken off the App Store, despite for months hosting nudified content and other very questionable content. Your thoughts?
Well, but there's a big difference. CSAM is the nuclear bomb that you have to negate immediately, whereas as unpalatable as X is in general and Nudify apps are, it's not quite the same thing. I believe that if Apple has so many responsibilities to make sure that they lock that crap down at the first twitch of a report that does absolutely start a four-alarm fire immediately. It's no debate, no discussion, no let's investigate this. It's like, no, we got to shut this stuff down.
But don't you think that empowers takedown extortionists?
It certainly does, and
It does.
it's part of what is on a lesser scale. Lesser dramatic scale, it's what's empowering YouTube to become the problem that it is, where it's very, very easy to target a very, very popular channel and simply get it taken down with multiple spurious copyright notices.
Okay.
Andy, don't mention that.
But I think that's an interesting point, though, Andy, because obviously I agree with you. Like CSAM is going to be a nuclear option, and if you get reports, you need to take action. I think what is an interesting thought experiment is if someone had reported that CSAM content existed on Twitter, on X, whatever, or on YouTube, if Apple would have made the same decision. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think they would have. Now, part of that you could argue is that at least in the case of Google, they have their own teams that scan things and are incredibly proactive to dealing with that type of content in a way that maybe you can't be on a messaging platform, especially if there's any sort of kind of, encryption involved. But I do still think that it's worth noting because, I'm not going to say that Apple would not have removed X from the App Store, but I don't know if it would have, at the very least. I mean, I think that in a circumstance like this, I think Pavel has a right to be frustrated, because if you're going to take an action like this, I think at the very least you should give, the CEO of a company, which is a very popular and, a very used app in your App Store, a heads up, even if you're not going to change the decision, just at the very least, reaching out and going, this is what's up. We can talk about it, when you've dealt with things, but we have to act in this manner.
I wonder if it speaks to what kind of lines of communication Apple has with different companies. Like, for instance, there was problems like this and problems in terms of deepfakes and other content on X before, where, I mean, us and other people were clamoring, like, why are you allowing this to continue? They are in direct violation of App Store policies, and you have shut down other apps for doing the same
because
or less.
They have a different tier.
Right,
there are different rules.
But in addition to that, it came out soon afterward that Apple was basically having deep threatening conversations with them, saying we need you to fix this and take this very, very seriously, because we are contemplating the nuclear option, but we do not want to do that right now. So I'm just not even suggesting anything might or might not have been the case, but it does make me think about all the different times where a nuclear option was averted because, as it happens, these two very, very key people have had a really good professional reputation at their respective companies and even at different companies before they came to Apple and whatever. And so they were able to pick up the phone and say, Josh, what the hell is going on? And what are you doing about it? So I wonder if there was just less communication between Telegram that might have affected things. But if nothing else, though, my first reaction to this is that it does show you how quickly Apple can move if it is properly motivated. That if we were ever wondering about, well, the thing is, there's so much bureaucracy and so many layers that they have to go through. It's like, no, under certain situations of high motivation, Apple can just grab for the wall switch and just yank that plug out immediately if they so desire to, which might provoke us to think back in the past 5 or 6 or 7 years about times when, again, it seems like they weren't doing anything very, very fast. That doesn't mean that they can't do something very, very quickly, but that this category of problem is not something that they that they devote those kind of resources to.
I also wanted to mention, this is somewhat tangential, but like, to be clear, so like there's a quote from the Telegram guy saying, if an app used by more than 1 billion people can be removed from the App Store without prior warning, any app can be. There's been a lot of like freakouts about this. And I just want to be clear. If you use Telegram, nothing happened. They removed it briefly.
Yeah, I could still use it, but it would
from the App Store for new users who had to download it from the App Store. That's it. This was, and to Andy's point, feels to me like this was somebody at Apple saying, why isn't Telegram talking to us? Well, we'll get their attention. This is serious enough that we're going to get their attention by doing something like this. But, well, I mean, if they had a line of communication, why would they do it this way? Unless Telegram was like, no, we're not going to do it, which I really doubt. But I just want to be clear here that, like, this is one of those areas where this stuff, like, there are lots of detailed issues about Apple's control and stewardship of the App Store and their choice to make it the only platform for iOS and iPadOS. Lots of issues there. But to see people cover this story like Telegram stopped working on people's iPhones, it's like it didn't happen. None of that happened. All it did was disappear if you went and tried to get it new in the App Store, which affected probably approximately nobody.
Okay. I understand your point, but I completely disagree with you. It's just, as far as I'm concerned, another nail in the coffin of Apple's complete control of this.
I don't dispute that at all.
It made me immediately say, all right, I need to own this channel. I need to put up Matrix, have my own server. And I am absolutely, every time this happens, it's a little nick in Apple's reputation. The minute there's something other than the iPhone that I can use, I will. And I think that that's really important. Apple, yeah, it's a nick. It's not a big chunk, but these add up. And it is problematic that they so control this device that I spent lots of money on, that they can take an app away. They didn't take it away from me. You're right.
But they didn't take that. That's the difference.
But wait,
here.
But they could. They have that control, and it shows you it's a single point of failure. And that's a big problem. And maybe it's just me. Maybe nobody else got that message, but I got that message loud and clear, and it is a chink in their armor.
Like I said, I think there are lots and lots of issues with Apple's choices here, and we've talked about it, and we'll continue to talk about it. But I think there is a conflation of two issues, and I think there is a tendency among some of the people who talk about this stuff to use what happened as a lever to make people scared about the bigger issue. Now, the bigger issue, look, it's true. If you want to have an iPhone, Apple determines what software you get to run on it.
And by the way, to a certain degree, so does Google.
To a certain degree, right? They're different, but similar in some ways. And people should know about that. But in my opinion, it's irresponsible to say, and I saw headlines that said this, Apple pulls Telegram from iPhones.
And I understand that's not what happened. Not true. And I still was using Telegram. I completely understand.
So why does the CEO of Telegram then say, oh, this is outrageous? It's because the CEO of Telegram feels like you feel, which is this individual item is not outrageous. But isn't it a reminder of the power Apple wields over its platform? Yes, it is.
And wields over his business. Because
yes.
If Apple if Apple were to pull at some point, and by the way, let's face it, Telegram is under a lot of assault, quite rightly, by Ukrainians saying Russians use it to plan their warfare, by Russians who say Ukrainians use it to plan their warfare, to American governments who say terrorists use it, and CSAM is on it. All of that is all true, I should point out, at least as far as I can tell. Right. There's a lot of junk on there. And I think Durov is quite rightly concerned that at some point Apple may say, yeah, Elon has an in the White House, but you, my friend, do not. In fact, he's under indictment in Moscow. He can't go back to Russia because he'll be thrown into jail. I understand his concern. That's his business right there. Yeah, he'd still have Android.
Yeah. I mean, I do understand. Jason. I do understand your point that oftentimes these get
It was
conflated
overstated
with,
for link bait. I completely agree.
yeah, and also for what might even be as bad a problem, which is someone being lazy and not understanding. Someone who's in the job and career of communicating news and communicating information, not understanding that words matter and the sequence in which you put the words into a sentence also really, really matters. I do, however, think that this is yet another really, really important opportunity to talk about the problem of the choke point for every single phone now being if you can strong arm Apple into pulling an app, and if you can strong arm Google into pulling an app, you can censor an entire channel of communication worldwide. And how much do we trust Apple or Google to say, if they said, by the way, in our country of 1.8 billion people, we've decided that we don't want any kind of security of any kind, or we decide that this platform is becoming too popular for people that we don't like, or here is an art platform that is allowing types of art that we think communicate bad ideas. We decide that we can, rather than pass a law to censor that our people will be very, very unhappy with, we've decided to simply basically strong arm you into pulling it with just 2 of those choke points. That's a big, big problem. And Android, which used to be like a good case study, is saying, look, if you don't want, your app, it's your phone, you're free to do whatever you want with it. If you want to sideload an app with all the risks that entails, by the way, here's an APK file, go ahead and sideload it. Now Google has gone back on that with essentially making sure that every app at least has to be signed by an understood, known, identified developer. Now we're just basically down to AOSP, the Android open source project version of Android. And that comes with so many downsides that even a big nerd like myself, who loves the cachet of saying, oh, no, I run pure open source on my phone and I've de-Google-fied everything. Like, yeah, but now you can't get any of the cool apps or services that you actually rely on. You can't call an Uber on this phone. Like, yeah, maybe I don't mind some control and surveillance. It's just a big problem that can't be shoveled under the rug.
Well, I also think that this goes back to the previous conversation. There is a threat to Apple that, right now, I don't have a whole lot of choice, as you point out. Yeah. I can run an AOSP phone. I mean, I have phones that are like this e-ink phone that runs, I don't know, some sort of very stripped down AOSP version of Android.
And I noticed that you use it so much that you've got a dead battery indicator on the screen.
It's got a long battery life because it's e-ink, but I haven't used it. In fact, it's really useless. But we're going to see, I think, in the next few years, AI-based devices that don't have apps, that don't have app stores, that are capable. And I think that
most of them are going to be run by giant companies that want to keep you in their ecosystem.
I was going to say, you're not wrong, Leo, that they are definitely facing competition, but there is zero reason to believe that whatever the next big operating system is, and I do believe that at least one of the AI companies is going to take a very big swing and potentially be very successful by doing like their own operating system. I have zero reason to believe that their policies will be demonstrably different from the policies that Google and Apple have. Honestly,
it's true. But there are competitive pressures there. Who might actually end up doing it? Believe it or not, the last people you'd expect, Meta. Because they've lost the AI race, and they spent so much money hiring Wang and building this ASI group nothing's happened. So a couple of things have happened for Meta in the last couple of weeks that make me think maybe they're saying, well, maybe there's other ways to make money than sucking people's data.
Oh, come on.
Meta. Wait a minute. Let me give the 2 data points, then you can rebut. Meta released an open source repo. It's on your platform, GitHub.
I know.
That lets you take these Meta glasses and point them at your agent, not Meta, even the cameras. And they've released Glimmer and are about to release, Muse? Another model, an open weights model. They're first in years. They released the first open weights model, Llama, and started a whole thing, by the way. Thank you, with Llama CPP. But they've been back to releasing, they're not the best, fairly capable models. Maybe they're seeing that maybe there's other ways to make money than pointing everything towards Meta properties. And look who else is doing it. And we know they have ways of making money. NVIDIA, who are making very capable open weight models, knowing that, well, maybe we won't collect your data, but we'll get your money for the hardware. Anyway, those are my data points. What do you think?
Okay, so I think on the Meta end, it is interesting, and I do like that they have finally returned to doing open weight models again after, basically especially after the Llama 4 benchmark scandal and whatnot. And I'm glad to see that. But let's make no mistake, the whole enticing thing of that model, the whole thing that they are betting on is that if you are willing to let Meta train on your data, you get it insanely, insanely cheaply. Their normal pricing is fine, but you can do better from other models. So the whole reason that anybody would bother with it is that they are letting you train on their data. And I think that it's great that they can have, an open source repo to let you use
I can run Glimmer on my own server.
Yes, you can, but most people are not going to, Leo.
Yeah,
that's the thing. And the thing is that, yes, you can release these things open weight, but at a certain point, open weight becomes a little bit meaningless in the sense that, yes, it's open weight, but I need $2 million minimum to be able to, get enough, H100s to be able to run the model.
I can run Glimmer on a 64 gig M4 Mini.
Yeah, but it's not going to be
not the best thing in the world.
But it's not going to be competitive. The models that people are actually excited about, are the ones that are being run in data centers. Period. Mm-hmm. And so it's great that it can be open weight. It's great that we can
That's today, though.
Yes, that's today. But given the hardware, crunch and whatnot, I don't know when it will be actually feasible for us to, on a mainstream level, self-host these things. I'm all for it. As you know, I've been self-hosting models for years.
I would tell a 20-year-old who's thinking about what they want to do with their life that the best thing to do is to aim at that future day when there'll be hardware and software that people can run in their house that will give them privacy.
And I think that's a great ideal, but I also think that there are financial incentives from all the companies involved, including NVIDIA, which will make it difficult for people to actually have access to those things. So I wonder at a certain point how much it just becomes almost marketing copy where you're saying, it's open weight and anyone can do it, but it's not actually conceivable, right? It's
you're on the front lines, and I trust your opinion.
But you might be right, and I hope that you are right, right? Like I hope that is where we can get to, and that more people will do that. I really hope we get to that place. But when I look at what Meta's doing right now, I'm going, okay, well, no one is taking you seriously. You've spent all this money. The only way that you can get anybody to pay any attention to you, because the Chinese models have caught up so quickly, is basically by all but giving it away in a hosted variance. And the way that you're doing that is by training on the data. I mean, Facebook's entire thing, Meta's entire company ethos has been the fact that it knows everything about you and that it tracks your data. Like even more than Google, that has been from the very beginning kind of their MO. So I would love to see them like turn another leaf, but I actually see this open weight strategy, this return to open weight, in some ways as them trying to be like, okay, no one is using our stuff, and we need a way to be able to get additional training information and something else. And if we make it cheap enough, that's great. And maybe in an ideal world, people will be able to fork that and use some of that information to have models that you can host without having to give them any data, which would be wonderful. But it kind of becomes, to Andy's point, kind of like an AOSP sort of thing where, yeah, it's great that I can run Graphene OS and that I can do all these things with it, but I can't call an Uber and I can't, use Google Wallet. And there are other things that are just not going to work. And for some people, for the idealists, the people who are going to be willing to jump through enough hoops, that will be fine. But I think more people will just kind of be like, I'm going to go with whatever is easier. And if it's training on my data, so be it.
Can I be utopian for a moment?
Please. I don't want to be the only one.
Well, and boy, this is going to make some people angry, but there's a real good solution here, which is that a bunch of influential regions make it illegal for companies that make computing devices to prevent the sideloading of third-party software. Done. Solved. And honestly, it should be illegal.
Yeah, it should.
If I buy an iPhone and I write a piece of software for it and I want to just stick it on there, if I want to download a piece of software and just stick it on there, I should be allowed to. And it doesn't have to be for the general public. It wouldn't be for the general public necessarily, but it would allow a little latitude. And I wrote a piece about this like 5 years ago, but like The Mac does it. Apple's got all sorts of security levels on the Mac, but in the end, if you say yes, 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 do this, you can get any arbitrary code to run on a Mac. And it's fine and good, and it provides a degree of latitude that allows things. In fact, I would say it allows things that Apple doesn't anticipate, like the flowering of AI models and agents on Apple's Mac platform to happen. It allows all that to happen without Apple needing to be involved at all, because Apple didn't have to be. It didn't have to approve anything or disapprove of anything. And is it likely that the governments of the world are going to do some sort of digital freedom like that to allow our devices to have that level of freedom if we want them to? I don't know. Probably not. That's the pessimistic part. But my optimism is there's a simple answer here, which is make it so that if you make a computing device, people can put software on it if they want, and that the idea of a monopoly control of the platform and all the software on it is just not allowed. That is basically what we have to do.
I would suggest something that's either more serious or simpler, and it actually mirrors something that iFixit wrote an editorial the other week, something that I've been basically hoping for a number of years. If all they did was simply say that if I were to if I were to be able to create the mass delusion in lawmakers to make this one kind of law happen, I would say, no, you know what? Instead of making it illegal to have a device that can't sideload apps, I'm going to basically say that you must have an unlockable bootloader on every single device that you ship. So that, yes, you can still restrict your iPads, your iPhones, whatever, to your specific app store. But because someone likes your hardware but doesn't like that policy, or simply because, okay, my 5-year-old iPad is still working great, but you're about to drop support for it and no more OS updates, with an unlockable bootloader, now suddenly if there's an open source project that wants to bring Linux to the iPad or Linux to the iPhone or something like that, they can actually do that very, very, not easily, but basically the thing that makes it impossible will have been done away with. On other devices with, God, I've got Chromebooks because I've been such a fan of Chromebooks. The idea of, that they don't make it so easy that you would get yourself, anybody who doesn't understand the importance, the severity of what they're doing would do it accidentally or just because they're bored. You literally have to take the case apart and physically break a seal on the motherboard off in case to do that. But once you've made that choice to do that, essentially you can rewrite everything on it, which is why I've got a beautiful 6 or 7-year-old Chromebook Pixel that is now running a very, very good version of Arch Linux on it, because again, it can simply do away with everything. I feel as though it breaks my heart a little bit that I still have a early generation iPad mini that I love in no small part because I've got the most beautiful hard case for it that just makes it into the most Ford Prefect Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy looking and feeling device ever. If I could, and of course it's been obsoleted a long time ago, breaks my heart that it still works great, the battery still charges great. If I could install Linux on this, I would do that in a heartbeat, but it is now essentially e-waste. I can the idea of just being able to use the apps that are still installed on it that don't connect to a server and say, I refuse to run anymore because you're not running on an OS that I approve of. It breaks my heart. And if I spend that kind of money on a device, I should have the ability to influence the disposition of the device. I can understand how a company like Apple is fighting sideloading for a number of good reasons, in addition to the majority of bad reasons why they're advocating against it, because it does make things a lot more difficult for them. It's something that they have to do. But if they just simply say, look, once you basically say, if you go to the About box and tap the About box 11 times to the tune of Yankee Doodle. Okay, when you get to stuck a feather in its cap, you'll get a dialogue saying, if you tap and call it macaroni, the bootloader will be unlocked. It will decertify iOS. It won't function as an iOS device anymore, but the bootloader. So think really carefully if you continue to tap and call it macaroni. But I assume that if you're going to tap it at this point, you know what you're doing. Do that, and then let the open source community figure out how to take advantage of it. And now it's no longer your problem, Apple.
Well, we are all now just proven dewy-eyed utopianists.
Yeah, we're saving the world here. We'll throw it. Look, we'll do Andy's bootloader thing. Christina mentioned in our members Discord the idea of, like, at the very least, say that if you're going to end of life a product, that the bootloader needs to get unlocked. We'll put that in there along with my app thing, and then I think there's a lot of sort of right to repair Cory Doctorow-ish stuff that should go in this same reform package. This is your tractors that can't be serviced by third parties, or parts to repair a product that can't be blocked out if they're not from the approved vendors via some sort of serial check. Like, yeah, and look, I think what we're really saying here is, at some point, companies realized that the real way to make money was to control all the horizontal and the vertical, right? And part of that, look, I'll admit, part of that is they decided that consumers wanted things to be cheaper. And so they're like, all right, okay, we'll make them a little cheaper, but we're gonna, we're gonna sell you the printer real cheap, but we're gonna sell you the toner. And that razor blade model has been applied to technology to the point where, like, every single freaking thing is a part of the gestalt of the company. And it's like a company like Apple, that's the size of Apple, can point at something like putting ads in maps. And it's like, it's a key part of their strategy to add a little bit of map ad revenue. And it's like, this is what gets us to this point, is we can't give up control of the App Store. Do you see how much money we make on it? We can't allow people to repurpose older devices because we need to sell them new devices. And, the only way to stop that, this is even bigger picture, is, the point is that capitalist, profit-driven organizations want to make as much money as possible. And the only thing that prevents them from doing the worst things to their customers, other than the open market, but the open market is limited when there are fewer and fewer players, is regulation. And so my fellow Americans, that is today why I am introducing the Notco-Snell-Warren plan.
Yes.
We are now going over the top from utopianists to communists, and I want to stop it, nip it in the bud.
No, this is capitalist.
Who are you? This is capitalism. It's the classic
Genuinely.
regulated capitalism, because you can't unregulate capitalism.
Even
or
Adam
it'll eat
Smith,
the world.
I think, said that the hand of the market is great. You still need some
but
sort of
need
antitrust.
You still need rules, and saying that your
need rules.
computer should run whatever software you want is probably a good rule. That's all.
I would also argue that, frankly, the anti-capitalist argument is kind of where we are now, where you have an uneven playing field, where it is not a market. It's being controlled by monopolists. It's being controlled by major parties, and there's no way for you to even have an open market.
Right. One last bit before we take a break, which is thanks to the courts and Epic, Google has started hosting its first third-party store, including, there's only one so far, but in the App Store, you can get Aptoid, which is, it sounds like hemorrhoid, but it's not. It's a game-focused store that you could sideload it in the old days, but is now officially in the Google Play Store. This is part of what they agreed to in their settlement with Epic. So I'm not going to rush to get Aptoid after looking at it. Yeah. But nevertheless, this is a chink in the armor. I don't know if Apple's been fighting this. They're still going to the Supreme Court to try to stop this. But I think that is a step in the right direction. Not much of a step, but a little bit of a step.
I think it's a big step in the right direction, at least in the sense that you would have, potentially other ways of getting things. Now, I don't know. I haven't looked into this enough. I think Andy would know if the new app stores can have different policies over what can and can't be installed that can override whatever the core Android policies are. If this is similar to the way the alternative app stores can work in the EU, where you can access things that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do. I doubt we will see anything like this happen to Apple, because even the judgment that they are fighting did not require this, right? Like they lost or they won, I guess, more to be more clear, in a way where Google lost in a much larger way, and so this is one of the concessions Google is having to make.
Isn't that ironic? Because honestly, Apple's more of a monopolist than Google is.
Right. I mean, it was different courts, different judges, different lawyers. Even though very similar, facts and whatnot. And so I don't know if this means that, okay, if I install God, the name is so terrible, Aptoid.
Aptoid.
It's awful, awful. I don't know if like you would be able to install apps that otherwise would not get through Google App Review. That's what I'm not clear on.
That's the question.
But, I think it's good that there are alternatives there, at the very least, for people not having to rely on, Google's payment policies and that sort of thing. Now, will people actually use this? Almost certainly not, which is kind of the sad thing with this, which is like, if you would allow these sorts of things to exist, I promise you 80-90% of the people are still going to use the default. As long as you make the default experience better, and as long as you can, show, the use cases for why it's better, people are going to do that because they're going to look at the alternative stores and they're going to go, it's a lot of junk. It doesn't have the big players. Maybe I can do something weird with it, but like, it's kind of like, the F-Droid, store, which, to be clear, I'm a big fan of. I'm glad that exists. But in most cases, but the number of people who are going to be bothering installing F-Droid versions of things on their phone is so small. It's not impacting Google Play. It really isn't.
Yeah, they might as well. Yeah, absolutely. And you said 80 or 90. I think it's 99.9. I mean, absolutely. I was everything we've been talking about in terms of freedom is for the tiniest slice of people who have the technical expertise and the interest. And so Apple and Google don't have to fear for their profits. But I just think people ought to have the right to do what they want. You can't root an iPhone, can you? There's no way to do that.
Yeah, you can, but it was interesting. One of the stories that was in the document was actually that there was a new jailbreak version that was released. The thing is that it has to be a certain version. You better not be updated past anything else. Yeah. It's very limited in what you can do. Some of the older hardware is easier to get than others, but I mean, Apple is really good at even going way, way back and doing stuff. And then the hard thing with Apple devices is that they only sign the older versions of the operating systems for a certain period of time. I think it's 2 weeks. And so if you didn't have that exploitable version of the OS already running on your device, even if it is capable of running that version, good luck getting it because it's not signed, so it's not going to run.
And Apple has a strong case saying, well, that's a bad idea because, of course, that makes you highly insecure. This is the story thanks to Andy. iOS 26 has a jailbreak. The Dopamine folks have created Dopamine 3.0, but you have to have very specific
very old hardware, very old hardware,
which is okay.
Which is okay, absolutely. Yeah. But again, to my point, the interesting thing here is that again, like you need to have a version that you were running iOS 26 or I guess like 26.01. If you were running, and what are we on right now? 26.6.1. 0.1 or something. Yeah. So we're many releases past that. So it'd be one of those things where if you happen to have hardware that could do it, and it is running that specific version, you're good. But where you would run into trouble is like, let's say I'm running iOS 18. If I want to update that, I can't just go into this version that's rootable or exploitable because the only signed version that I can get is the latest version.
Right.
Yeah, and that illustrates another problem with the freedom that you should have on your phone. Like if you have like a 5 or 6 year old iPhone and let's say it's not been obsoleted yet. Okay, it looks like you're still going to get iOS 27. You're still going to get at least a year worth of updates, but you're aware that, man, I don't think this phone has been ever as fast as it was when it was run iOS 16. I would love to roll it back to iOS 16 just to get that performance back. But no, because that OS is no longer signed for this device. That's another. See, again, it goes for. I just believe that unless you're giving them away for free or you're selling them at well under cost, you really do have to. I do feel as though these companies should give you the ability to have control over the device, because you can't just treat people like children. That's one of the things that has made me so annoyed about Apple's control versus Google's control. Even though oftentimes Google and Apple have the same level of control, Apple's attitude has always been, the thing is, these people are idiots. Okay, we are so much smarter than they are.
There is this kind of patronizing.
On a more to put it in a more positive way, there's a line that I heard a Disney executive who worked with the organization long enough to have worked personally with Walt Disney. He told the story about the characterization of the Disney theme parks, which is that like Walt wanted to make sure that if you came to Disneyland, you would have a really, really good time. He felt so strongly about that he wanted to make it impossible for you to not to have a bad time. Meaning that there's so much that is tightly controlled to make sure that whatever kind of mischief you want to get in that has not been controlled by Disney, it is not possible to even do that. And I've always thought about that as a really good analog for Apple. Like maybe their intentions, or at least originally, were correct. That look, if we lock down this operating system, we're going to prevent our users from having a bad time with this phone. And yeah, I mean, having access to an alternative app store that doesn't have any of the content that's on the regular app store is a bad time. Unlocking a bootloader and installing like a kind of flaky mobile Linux can possibly be a bad time. But sometimes the most fun you can have is not to go to Disneyland, but just to rent a car and drive around Anaheim and say, you know
Go
what,
to Krusty Town, yeah.
That food truck looks like it's serving something really, really cool, and I might get violently ill from it, but it smells great. And I'm going to order from that truck, you know?
Well, let's not forget that after the sale of Pixar to Disney, Steve Jobs was the #1 individual stockholder in Disney. Disney definitely influenced Apple to a great degree. Let's take a little break. Come back with more. By the way, happy birthday to Steve Wozniak. It's his birthday today.
Yay.
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 Happy birthday, Woz.
Yeah, happy birthday, Woz. We'll have more with
he is the anti-tech bro.
He is, isn't he?
He's like, if he
Woz would agree with everything we've just said.
I was going to say Woz would have insisted that the bootloader be easily to unlock and offered his own alternative operating systems himself.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we print the hex dump of our ROMs in with the instruction manual? Why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woz is 76 today. Happy birthday.
Yay.
To Woz, and I'm sure Janet, his wife, who we all know, is throwing him a heck of a party, and we are not invited. At least as far as I know. Maybe you are. We'll have more with Andy, Christina, and Jason in just a bit, but our show brought to you today by Cirasync. This is a pain point for everybody who has an iPhone or a Macintosh laptop or a Mac. Even in, 100% Apple shop, the back office is very often still running Microsoft 365, right? So many businesses are, which means, well, your company directory lives somewhere your iPhone doesn't naturally see. Now, notice, I don't say can't see, but just doesn't naturally see. That way, unfortunately, everyone's contacts app is full of personal numbers, but none of the work ones. A coworker calls, it's just a number on the screen. In fact, if you've got your iPhone set as I have, not to accept calls from unknowns, you may not even get that call. You, the new guy, your boss, they all somehow wind up with different numbers for the same department head, and she ends up declining your calls, right? Because she doesn't have the right numbers either. Well, that's where Cirasync comes in. They fix it. Cirasync pushes your whole company directory, contacts, and calendars right to the native contacts app on every iPhone and Mac automatically. It just shows up. It stays current on its own. It solves a real pain point for those of us who are, working with iPhones or MacBooks. Go to cirasync.com/MacBreak and book your free demo. The Cirasync team will walk you through how convenient and hassle-free it is. They can even help you get set up on the call. So you can roll it out across your whole organization. That's cirasync.com/MacBreak to get your whole company's contacts on every iPhone in the office automatically. cirasync.com/MacBreak. I'm so glad Cirasync exists. And we're very grateful to them for sponsoring MacBreak Weekly. cirasync.com/MacBreak. RAM. It's in short supply. Apple thought very wisely, they thought, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go to a Chinese RAM suppliers, CMXT or CXMT, and get the RAM from them. Now, don't worry, U.S. RAM suppliers who won't sell us your RAM. Don't worry, because we're only going to use it in the Chinese iPhones. Well, guess what? After going back and forth, and Apple went to Congress and went to Trump, saying, "Can we please?" Now CXMT has rejected Apple. Well, to be specific, according to a Korean technology site, Digital Daily, they've rejected Apple's demands for discount pricing.
Yeah.
And you know what? They're in the driver's seat on this. Apple, just doesn't have they're not the only buyers. Let's put it that way. CXMT provides Huawei and Xiaomi with, of course, RAM chips. So much so they don't really need Apple. In fact, CXMT had the gall, the nerve to tell Apple, you're going to pay the same price you're paying now to Samsung and SK Hynix, who apparently are sold out through 2030.
Yeah, I imagine Apple thought that the idea of securing Apple as a customer would, in the long run, they would be so excited about it that they would give them better pricing. But that is kind of remarkable. Even so, I think it was the Wall Street Journal had a long article about the larger situation, and said that even if they managed to get through all of the political headwinds against doing business with this entity, they're half of the people that they're lobbying, Apple is lobbying in DC, are actively trying to get them added to the exclusion list. Right now, they're not. It's just a political. It'll just cost them politically if they go ahead with the deal, but no, they're actually pursuing the nuclear option against this company. That's how bad this situation is. But Wall Street Journal was saying that even if they could do a deal with this company, they all their RAM is already allocated, and it won't solve their immediate problems at all. So it's wow, it's like the first reel of any Charlie Chaplin movie where it's just depression after depression after depression, slam door after slam door after slam door, and the fact that they carried the clipping in their wallet, but we're a $5 trillion company. This shouldn't happen to us. Yeah, it's happening to all of you. I'm sorry.
The three big RAM manufacturers in the world have announced they are sold out through the end of next year.
Yeah.
Through the end of next year, according to DigiTimes. This crisis isn't going to end. Now, there was a rumor, which Ming-Chi Kuo has debunked. I don't know what the truth is, that TSMC was sitting on as many as 1 billion processors. Because Apple does integrated RAM, they can't finish the die until they get the RAM for the processor. Jesus. And the story was where they're sitting on 1 billion processors and they can't get the RAM to finish them. Now, Ming-Chi Kuo says that's not true. I don't know what the case is, but it is tight out there. That's another one of the reasons I went out and spent a lot of money to buy machines that had enough RAM for me to run local AI models. I feel like this is going to, I may not be able to buy those next month. I may not be,
I'm totally with you. It's I'm, as I've said before, I'm also kind of really, this is the last year I can possibly run this phone that I have, this Pixel phone that I have. It will almost certainly lose support at the end of next year. And I'm really this is a good, and I almost bought a Pixel 10, even though the Pixel 11 is going to be released actually tomorrow, because Google was offering such a good discount on it a few weeks ago. It
has 100. They went to 256 gigs of storage, which is good, right?
And also, but that.
What's the RAM? We don't know what the RAM is.
But no, I'm sorry, 16. I don't know about tomorrow.
16. Okay.
I think.
But for the Pixel 10, that was, again, it was on sale, 16 gigs RAM, 256 gigs of storage for that model. And my concern was that, not knowing for a fact what the capabilities of the 11 would be, it's we're all looking at a future where a year ago, we would just simply assume that if we're buying a premium smartphone, it will have 16 gigs of application RAM. Now we're thinking the premium level might be 12 gigs. Right. Maybe we can't even count on 12 gigs, and that's
Christina says the 10 is 12.
Yeah, the 10 is 12. I think the 10 Pro is 16.
Yeah.
Right,
and so
I'll be honest, I'm sitting on my Pixel 9 with no urgency because they haven't really made much of a difference in the 10, and I don't think the 11 will either. But Andy, you have something much older.
Well, yeah, I have a Pixel 7, and that's actually my backup phone because my Pixel 6 went the ways of Jesus called it home October of last year, and the thing is this has I feel the same way as you do. The thing is when I upgraded my MacBook, I could before I even bought it. Here's a half dozen things I will be able to do immediately with this M5 MacBook Pro that I cannot currently do with my M1. With the phone, it's even if I switch to iPhone, my thinking is I am satisfied with the camera on my 5-year-old phone. I'm satisfied with the storage and the speed on my 5-year-old phone. It is a little bit laggy when I test out, when I have got other phones to test out, but it's not bad. The only thing that I would be looking forward to is on-device AI models and AI features that might require more capability, more TPUs, or more neural processors, or more RAM. And that's why I didn't wind up buying that 10 Pro, because it's I don't like the idea of upgrading a phone just because I feel as though I need to, because I'm being imperiled by maybe I won't be able to get the phone that I want anytime next year. And it's just very, very difficult. I don't know. I would love to be able to hang on to this phone for another year just to see, or at least allow my bank account to heal over the scabs that it acquired after spending $2,300 on a new MacBook. But the thing is, this is the first time that I think we should all be concerned, or at least be aware that it might not be, if the difference between whatever you might have bought in 2025 and the new phones that are available in 2026 might actually in some ways be an active downgrade, because they just don't have enough RAM to fill all of these things. And it might be that, there will be a 16 gigabyte model of whatever, but that will have to be the 512 gigabyte option or the 1 terabyte option, because they have to save that for the highest price points and the highest profitability. And the ones that most people would buy are just not going to have as much RAM as you would otherwise like it to have. It's an unprecedented situation, I think.
Yeah. Well, of course, these RAM companies think this is a great opportunity, and they are breaking ground. Micron's spent $100 billion on a New York State plant. Yeah. SK Hynix says they are about to break ground on a $38 billion plant. TSMC is building $100 billion worth of fabs in Arizona. None of that will come online for years.
Right.
And that's the problem. We will have, I can promise you, a RAM glut in 2030.
Well, I mean, this is the frustrating thing, right? Is that they had years and years to be able to invest and to start.
They didn't want to because RAM was so cheap, right?
I know. Well, because there are rises and falls, but I mean,
we've seen this before.
We have seen this before, but this is the level, and I don't know. To me, when you start seeing your projections go up, when you start seeing other companies other than your main suppliers starting to buy a lot from you, when you start seeing the crunch, which that they had to be seeing 2 years ago, that they did. The fact that they are only now announcing these, these new fabs, which are going to take years to get online, even if they'd invested 2 years ago, we still would be in this problem. But the fact that they didn't, that's what kills me, is that, they're pretending we had no way of knowing, but we're completely sold out through the end of the year, through the end of next year. And too bad, there's nothing you can do about it. Come on. I think Andy's point is great. I think that there are going to be a lot of devices, not just phones, but laptops too. We're already seeing this with some laptops where, not on the Mac side, but on other sides where, the RAM amount is going down. And that's very unfortunate. I would hope, I'm not hopeful, but I would hope that maybe this would be an opportunity where, especially with some of the advances that we're getting with, with latest, coding models, that maybe people would build more efficient software that would be able to run better in these constraints. Again, I hope, but I'm not actually hopeful of that happening. But I think this is going to be an interesting kind of journey for a lot of people because
a journey. Yes, it's a journey.
but I do think Andy's right. I think that what's going to happen is that there are going to be a lot of people who, I bought a phone 3 years ago. I'm buying a new phone, and it's not going to feel demonstrably better than what I used to have, and that's because the chip's going to be faster, but there are going to be a lot of other aspects of it that are not going to be a big improvement. Whereas I think people kind of used to like these big kind of improvements, and that's just not going to be the case because the supply is what it is, unless you are fortunate enough to have the money to buy the highest end component you can get. And even then, I would be surprised if, as companies are starting to plan out their future products, if they have to keep in mind, okay, well, are we actually going to be able to get as many RAM chips as we think we need? Or do we have to spec this differently, however many years in the future? But it also, I think, is increasingly clear that none of these major companies care a whole lot about consumers. Their primary
Micron even said we're not going to sell to consumers.
Right.
They shut down Crucial.
They shut down Crucial, right? But I think NVIDIA has made that clear for years too, and I think it's just kind of one of those things where you're like, okay, well, we will own nothing and we will like it. Hey, but we'll be able to lease an iPhone. We can lease that $3,000 iPhone or whatever. I'm being hyperbolic. I hope that we don't ever reach a point where an iPhone is $3,000, but
I've been kind of buying as much stuff as I can.
Yeah.
My wallet's hurting, but
I hear a lot from people asking about like, should I buy an iPhone now when they're the normal price instead of next time?
Well, maybe they won't be the normal price for a lot longer. We also heard a rumor that the 17 is going to go up in price before the 18 comes out.
Keep in mind that 18 is not coming out until next spring, probably, right? The 17 base is staying around, so they're going to have to raise its price. But the Pro might, because they're finishing up the 17 Pro line, and then they could reintroduce at a higher price. But I think there is a strong argument if you have an aging iPhone. The iPhone 17 has been a hit because it's really good. The base model is really great because it's got a lot of Pro features. The Pro models are really nice. I am going to have phones because I have to test them and all of that, but I'm telling you, looking at the prices, looking at the future, looking at what's going on, and I got my little cosmic orange iPhone 17 Pro here, and it's like, I wouldn't mind using this for the next 2 or 3 years. It's great.
Fine.
I love it.
It's a great device. It's a great device.
Maybe think about getting an iPhone now and not waiting until next month because, I'm sure they'll be better, of course, but like, what are they going to cost and what are the specs going to be?
And how much better? Right?
Exactly. Well, that's the whole thing, right? Is that how much better? I mean, the one thing I guess you could say is a ding against the iPhone 17, and I don't think that's that big of a deal, is that it doesn't have all of the new, Siri AI features.
AI stuff, yeah.
But that's only the kind of the local stuff because it only has 8 gigs of RAM.
And really limited too. Right now it's just like the better Siri voices. It's like, it's not enough to worry about.
That's what I was going to say is having used it on my iPad now, like it's nice, but I think that most features, and honestly, I think this makes sense. This is Google is doing this too. Is like, you could run this locally, but especially if we're in supply constraints, if you can show that you're doing it in a private way, which Apple has been taking great strides to do, why wouldn't you use it, hosted, if possible? So you have some better voices and some other local things, but it's not going to be a massive difference, especially if you're looking at, is this going to be, $200 more or whatever? Because we don't know what the prices will be. Yeah. But it used to always be, but it's so funny because it used to always tell people, the worst time you could ever buy an iPhone would be August of,
That's changed, hasn't it?
That's changed because we don't know in a month what the prices are going to be. And I certainly think that if you are somebody, let's say you're on like an iPhone 11 or an iPhone 12 and you can get a good deal through a carrier or through Apple or whatever on a 17 or 17 Pro, I would not buy an Air, but like the other two, I would definitely consider, do you need the latest and greatest, factoring in that there's probably going to be a 20% price bump.
Yeah. And also,
it's hard to believe. Time is going so fast. Maybe it's because I'm an old man, but we're 3 weeks away from the next iPhone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are that close.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's probably,
at least it's announcement. I don't know.
Four. Yeah. Probably 4.
4, you think? When? What do you think the day will be? Do we know?
7th, maybe?
9th. 7th is Labor Day.
Oh, 7th Labor Day. Okay, sorry about that.
It's
Yeah,
can't be
8th or
any
9th.
sooner than the 9th.
8th or 9th.
Yeah.
They could do it on the 8th. They've done it the day after Labor Day, but
Well,
they
especially
prefer
since it's
not
all
to.
pre-recorded now. That's not a big deal.
They prefer to. Yeah, but they do have people that they will
Briefings,
invite to
people
come
fly
and do
I was going to
hands-on
say, and they have
reviews
executives,
program.
and they have executives who might not want to have to immediately travel.
Yeah,
right
so,
after Labor Day.
8th or 9th feels
Still
right
wearing
to
my
me.
white shoes, man. I can't
Exactly.
come down to Cupertino.
Yeah. So
but-
I mean, Gurman said it, and I agree with him. I think 9/9 is the most likely.
Yeah.
But it could surprise us.
Well, that's less
John
than a
Turnus-
month away.
John
Less
Turnus will be in
than-
charge. He's going to have to decide. It's up to him.
John Turnus's debut. We've seen these RAM ups and downs. Nightscape in our Club Twit Discord says it's going to be like the 90s. I bought 16 megabytes of RAM for $600. A month later, something shifted. It was $300. Mm-hmm. It hurt so bad, I never forgot. Actually, he said counseling helped.
I looked up a
We're going the
spinning
opposite direction. In February of last year, 16 gigs of RAM, DDR5, cost $100. Today, $600.
Yeah, I looked up almost exactly a year ago. I bought a replacement for one of my drives in my RAID. So it's just spinning hard drive, but those are needed in data centers too.
Yep.
And I looked at that same model. It's like a Western Digital Red, I think, or maybe it was a Iron Wolf, a NAS drive. And it's twice the price it was at 1 year ago. Twice,
Honestly,
just straight up twice the price.
Honest to God, I needed some extra storage, and I wasn't even looking for to build an additional NAS for my network. But the thing is, by the time it came to the point where I do think that it would be nice to have another 16 terabyte drive or like a 20 terabyte drive. By the time I got around to basically saying, yeah, maybe we should put some devote some money to that, prices had gone up so high that it actually cost less for me to buy like a NAS enclosure and recycle 4 8 terabyte drives that I'd pulled from a previous thing than to simply buy like a brand new 0 hours old operation old device with the correct capacity. It's like it is like just
It's
so nuts.
getting so bad. It's making that OpenAI $300 mechanical donut sound pretty appealing.
I can afford $300. That's
I
fine.
can afford a
give you
mechanical
something- I got
donut.
$300 on me. Yeah, I mean, it really is weird. And I'm sorry, just to not to retread what we were talking about like a couple minutes ago, but the thing is part of because I have been thinking about this a hell of a lot. And one of the things that I'm thinking about is, well, what if you were to buy like an A series or an E series phone just to last the next 2 or 3 years? Partly because it's been a long time since I've decided to daily drive like an A series phone as my own device. Because part of the thinking is that by the time if I let this go for 2 or 3 years, the chip crisis will be over. The flagship phones will be 2 or 3 years better, but also if the thing that like I mentioned earlier, only thing that I'm kind of don't want to miss out on is the idea of like really, really good on device AI making this into a much more useful device. The thing is as of everything we've seen in iOS 27, that is not going to be seen anytime in 2026, unlikely to be seen in force until we're well into 2027. If we're talking about wanting to use Gemini for that or wanting to use OpenAI for that, it's not as though next year is likely to be the revolutionary year in which everybody stops using apps and starts using AI agents to get all the work done for them. So again, if I decide that I'm going to try to see what a $500 nothing phone will be like to rock for a couple of years, or an 18e or a Pixel 18a would be like for 2 years, by the time it's over with, that will be the transformative upgrade when I spend $1,300 on a brand new flagship phone in 2030 or 2029. And my God, I can't believe I'm talking about 2029 and 2030 as though there's things I can plan for. Oh my God, we're living in the future.
I feel very fortunate. I bought 2 Western Digital Red Pros for my NAS last December. They were about $300 for 16 terabytes. Now they're $700.
Yes.
So
Spinning
I'm
hard
glad I
drives,
put
no
them in.
one's
I hope I
supposed
don't
to
lose
care
another
about them.
drive.
You're
I
supposed
can't
to
afford
scoop them up for cheap. Yeah.
I can't afford to replace it. It's
Right.
a 5-drive box, and I only replaced 2. Oh no!
Well, and then Paul pointed out in the members chat that he had a drive go bad, and that Amazon, rather than warranting it, just gave him his purchase price back. but that's only going to cover half of replacing it, right? So, and there have been other companies who are doing that sort of thing too, where they don't want to deal with the warranty issues. I trust that Apple will not be that way here, but I have had this thought in my head where I'm going, oh man, I've got a almost 3-year-old MacBook Pro. It has 128 gigs of RAM in it. I sure hope nothing happens to it. I'd hoped that I'd be able to upgrade this year. Looking at pricing and everything else, I just don't think that I'm going to be able to necessarily do that, because it's going to be so much more than what I already spent, and I already spent a lot of money on it 3 years ago. But now I'm like, okay, well, I sure hope nothing happens to this thing, because
me too.
Who knows how long, if it was the screen or something else, I'm sure they would deal with it. But I'm like, I don't know how many of these things they have, held back to do warranty replacements. I trust that Apple would figure something out, but this is going to become a problem, I think, with other companies who are, it's not so easy to be able to like, oh, okay, well, your device broke and you're under warranty. Now we're going to replace, your drive for you, whatever. It's like, okay, with what?
It's time to invest in buy now, pay later companies. That's for sure. You're watching MacBreak Weekly, home of the mechanical donut, with Andy Inako, freshly shorn with the mini chops, and visiting friends.
Wait, I've got this. It's the speed chops, lightweight,
chops.
more aerodynamic for winter, for hot weather.
His new site, inotco.com, is up and running, and your membership is much appreciated. Great content there. In fact, at this point, Andy, I'm just going to let you do all the show rundowns. You do a much better job than I do. Thank you for all your contributions. Christina Warren, of course, film girl everywhere. She is in developer relations at GitHub, and my personal AI guru. So I appreciate all you do, Christina. We are so glad to have you here. A very, very valued newest member of the MacBreak Weekly panel. And Jason Snell. I didn't get to talk about all the colored ink last week. I hope Mike helped get all that out of your system.
Spilled a lot of colors last week.
Yes,
yeah, it's true.
Sixcolors.com.
Apple made a lot of money. That's all you need to know.
Yeah. Apple made a ton of money.
Yeah.
Still great coverage. Everybody should join sixcolors.com.
Thank you.
Glad to have you on MacBreak Weekly. Time for our weekly Mark Gurman report. Actually, Mark kind of found something interesting to talk about. Here we are 3 weeks or 4 weeks away from Apple's big iPhone event. And his story on Sunday, Apple explores shaking up its smartwatch for a new era. This is a response to AI, isn't it? Mm-hmm. What are they going to not? It won't happen this year.
I think it's also. I mean, this feels
chips.
like it's like Apple has been resting on the one Apple Watch for more than a decade, 100%. Where they thought we'll make an iPhone that's a watch, and there is this rise of all of these like
I wear an Aura
screenless
ring.
bands and smart rings and all of that. Yep. And it feels to me like as they're making changes at Apple, people are looking at wearables, home, and accessories and going, what's going on over there? Like, is anything happening at all? Because I like my Apple Watch. I think the Apple Watch is a very nice product. But why is that the only one they make? It doesn't, and I hear from people who are like, I don't want a computer watch, but I like the idea of the health sensors. And some people will end up getting bullied into wearing an Apple Watch that they don't want to wear. But I also have friends who love those health bands that have no screen or a tiny screen that has almost nothing. It's super simple. Like, why would, and we're all talking about syncing with your iPhone and syncing with Apple Health. Like, why wouldn't you make other products? So Gurman says maybe they will, although this is early days. They're talking about it now, which, the best time to talk about doing something other than the Apple Watch was 5 years ago. Second best time is now. Great. Let's talk about it now. But they should absolutely, because the health platform they've got is great. But one size does not fit all. So the idea that they could have not just different Apple Watches, but other health wearables that might fit into people's lives. I was thinking I don't like wearing my Apple Watch to sleep, so I don't use any of the sleep tracking.
Yeah.
And I might buy a band for sleep and then put on my watch during the day, but if I do, it won't be from Apple because Apple just doesn't make that product.
Yeah. I mean, this is the Fitbit Air that I got one for review, and I had to actually buy one for myself because I just like it so much. That's Jason. That's exactly like what we're talking about. It's like I like the Apple Watch. I respect the Apple Watch, but I just don't have room for an Apple Watch in my lifestyle. I want a very, very simple lightweight
I bought
band.
that Casio watch you talked about 2 weeks ago. I might have had 17 bucks. How can I not buy it?
I like this.
Yeah.
It's like, what was it? Like, there's a meme from Top Gear where Jeremy Clarkson is like, the difference between like the super, super high tech, like supercar, but this like little simple little car, like, this is brilliant, but I like this.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so much opportunity because not only that, but see, the part of the brilliance of this design is that it's not built into the band. It pops, all the electronics just pop straight out, which
just
means
like a
that,
Fitbit.
Well,
it was a Fitbit.
It's not.
It is a Fitbit.
It's not just to attach.
But thank
to
you,
different
Google, for not
bands.
killing it. I'm very grateful.
Google did something really, really interesting where they basically say they published like this.
That looks exactly like the original Fitbit that
It
I
does.
lost in the wash 4 times.
It looks like the original Nike Apple.
Yes.
Like, little pedal
the thing that went in your
inside the
shoes.
I
Yeah,
loved
yeah.
that. I loved that.
Yeah.
But the thing that makes this brilliant is that so Google decided early on, like, guess what? Here are the complete CAD plans for the holder for the receptacle for this. So if anybody, including any commercial entity, wants to make something that this snaps into, go for it. And so that's why the people who like want to wear it on an armband, great. It's you can wear this like on your bicep, like some competitors do. I bought a group started 3D printing an adapter that just simply like attaches to like any watch band. So if I wanted to just basically be not even be wearing like this thing on my other wrist, but basically integrate this into any watch band that I want, so I can wear whatever watch I want. I could wear my $5,000 Rolex. I don't own a $5,000 Rolex, but I don't even know how much a Rolex costs. And I'm thinking it's probably a $22,000 Rolex. But anyway, basically the idea of the idea that if I want to integrate this into whatever device whatever thing I want to wear, wherever I want to wear it, I can do that. And it's like Jason said, it's like, it's brilliant, it's lovely, your Apple Watch, but it's not for everybody. It doesn't no one is going to get that customer is not going to get the benefits of this because they don't want to wear it when they sleep. This is lightweight enough that I do wear it when I sleep. It's light because there's no big strap or buckle on the bottom of it. I don't have to take it off when I'm like at my keyboard for like 8 hours a day and because it has this big lump underneath me. So that's not saying that the Apple Watch is a bad design. It's just that it was introduced a long time ago, and a lot new ideas have come across. The Apple Health software and ecosystem is still top notch, but the Apple Watch itself has been equaled by so many other companies and so many other products and exceeded from certain points of view and others. So it is long past time for Apple to give access to people who, again, have looked at your Apple Watch, respects the Apple Watch, but I do not have room for an Apple Watch in my life.
It's a
So
fine product,
they're thinking
but why is
about
it the only-
ceramic white coming back, which would be great. They haven't done that since 2016. They're thinking about a round face, according to Gurman.
Yeah, he says that they're like not that hard. Not that hard.
Thinking a little, kind of had a dream.
They
But
thought about it. They don't like it so much. But I think
Go ahead. Sorry.
other wearables are probably a better move for them than I mean, the Apple Watch. And
Ring.
It's we as computer people, we tend to frame this as, are they going to replace the Apple Watch with the new product? It's like the Apple Watch has been around more than a decade. It's iconic. You look at watches out there, like Andy's Casio watch that Leo also has. Like, these are things that last for they're around for decades as a design. I don't think the Apple Watch as we know it, the series, is going anywhere. But make other ones, right? You could make more than one product.
Yes.
Apple. Hello.
Well,
So,
I was going to say, like, having a sleep one alone would be, to me, one of the easiest things to do, because I have an Hermes edition Apple Watch. So, okay, whatever. It's great, and I love the band and whatnot. And I can put on like a elastic band. But that means, because it was, $1,600 or whatever, and then the band was more than that, we're not going to talk about it. I'm not going to wear that to sleep. Period.
But you could bridle a horse with it, so that's the good thing.
Well, maybe, but but it's stainless steel, and I'm not going to wear that to sleep. So I don't get any of the advantages of the sleep tracking stuff. Now, I have an older Apple Watch that I could pair, and I could wear that to sleep, and then switch between the two, and whatnot. But they make that clunky. But there are plenty of situations where even if you were comfortable wearing your watch to sleep in, okay, well, now when I wake up in the morning, I have to charge it because it's going to be dead. Yeah. And, there are a lot of other things. So yeah, having a ring, having another sort of wristband, having other form factors so that can tie into this ecosystem, I think that would be great. And it wouldn't take anything away from the Apple Watch. To Jason's points, it's iconic. It's been around for 11 years. It's, 11, right? And it's, been very, very successful. I think when they tried it as fashion, it failed. As soon as they pivoted it to, fitness and health, it became a huge success. And I feel like that's an opportunity for them to go even harder in that direction. Especially if you were like in a perfect world, you open it up in some way to have trusted partners create, wearable type of activities the same way that you have certain other devices that can talk to Apple Health, like where Apple wouldn't even have to be the ones to do all of it. But yeah, I think that it'd be great for them to expand into this area because I think at this point, I'm not claiming that like the Apple Watch market is dead or anything, but I do feel it's saturated to a certain point where I don't know how many new people are going to buy an Apple Watch, if that makes sense, right? Like I feel like
you got the people that you were going to get, and now you need to get more people,
which is a ton of people, to be clear. But I don't feel like there's like this huge hockey stick of growth, beyond that. I feel like at this point, most people who thought that they wanted a smartwatch and are in the Apple ecosystem have, looked at an Apple Watch or have bought one, even if they ultimately kept their Rolex or something else.
Excuse the knocking. There is a person on the other side of the wall behind me who's trying to tear our house down, and it's normal. It's normal. Yes. Hello.
Here's
update.
Johnny.
You got there before I did.
A little axe in his hand.
Yep.
Yeah.
Run.
Something important. I don't want to let this slide. There is a very important update to your macOS if you're using 26 or even an older one.
Or even 25.
Yeah. There was a bug in screen sharing which would allow an attacker, they'd have to be on your network. So that's, probably not likely. But if they were, they could authenticate to screen sharing without valid credentials. In other words, see what you're doing. This has been fixed. Kind of an out-of-band update that Apple pushed out. So everybody should apply that. If it's offered, if they're on your network, I guess the real risk would be if you were at a hotel or an airport or somewhere on a shared network, that could be risky. At a coffee shop, somebody could be looking over your shoulder without looking over your shoulder. Also, a new report. You had it at your blog, Jason, sixcolors.com, Dan Morin writing it up, that Apple's private relay may not be as private as thought. This comes from 404's Joseph Cox. He's been really looking at all of this. He was the guy who told us last month about the hide my email flaw. It's apparently due to the implementation of passkeys. So
yeah, it's wild. It's basically like passkeys take a different path that reveals who you are. I mean, it is a classic bug, right? Where there's like they're handled differently, and one of them is not going through the pathway that privatizes information. And oops, but. You also get the vibe that these features were built and then sort of like left by the side of the road, and that there's nobody like actively working to make them better, as so often happens with new Apple features. And yeah, that's kind of disappointing, but hopefully they'll address it. This is not a huge deal, but it does make you feel like, is anybody paying attention to this?
Well, there's every software is going to have bugs. And I think some of this is because we now have very good AI tools to find these bugs that we're starting.
That's probably part of it.
I'm sure that's how we found it.
And Apple is also using good AI tools to try and find their bugs. And you end up in this very weird kind of state. But I wonder if these iCloud privacy features are being looked at in that way, or if they're we're not quite sure who's in charge of those.
But it's also like it establishes a need to take a look at Apple's track record. We're not so far away from the hide my email privacy problem, which Apple knew about for an entire year without really doing much about it. Regarding the proxy browser leak in WebKit, the makers of Silo, which is a privacy-focused browser, basically did a really good job documenting also like the proxy problem, but also I think they put this on on their socials, that basically saying that, you know what, we are not they basically issued a vote of no confidence in Apple's ability or interest in fixing this really big problem really quickly. So that's why they're informing all their users that we have basically disabled certain features in WebKit that might affect your compatibility of our browser with all the entirety of the web. But we feel as though, given that what we are selling you with this browser is privacy and security, we cannot allow this unpatched bug to be in our software anymore. But again, it seems like the responsible thing to do given the nature of their browser, but it really was a vote of no confidence. They did cite not only the hide my email problem, but also they cited personal experience that they have had that they claim to have had with the App Store about, look, we're telling you about this problem. When are you going to fix it? Well, maybe we will, maybe we won't. And again, it's Apple starting to have it's not a crisis by any definition, but they are starting to. I think that we're getting towards a point where Apple kind of needs to start talking about this sort of stuff. And even if they're not directly addressing this, they're basically saying we're going to be a little bit more open. We're going to be a little bit more open about how we process these security vulnerabilities when we get these reports, basically to restore faith and confidence that if a bug is reported, we immediately jump on it. And if we have not updated it, if we've not fixed it in 6 months' time, it's not because we don't care or that we don't have a process. It's because there is a correct time for us to release that into the main OS, and that time was not now, it was 4 months from now.
The part that bothers me about a lot of this, honestly, is just the fact that, and this came up when I was on Clockwise last week, is the fact that, like, this is part of a paid service, ostensibly. Yeah. That's because otherwise, like, bugs happen, and I'm glad that they are acting, it seems like, more quickly than they were before. I will also, similarly with the way I felt about, like, the private email, I never personally looked at the private relay as actually being all that secure. It breaks sometimes if you use it for certain things, you'd have to turn it off. But B, like, my personal threat model was such that I was like, if I'm not, using this as my way to try to feel like this is the end all be all of security. Having said that, I do think that it's a little bit, I understand how hard it is to try to maintain software and keep up with all your different features and your bugs and different teams and whatnot. And I understand that better than most people, right? And I can give a lot of leeway to that. Where it is a little bit frustrating is when this is bundled as part of a paid service. And then when these types of things happen. And I am glad that they acted, at least in this instance, it seems like, or hopefully they're going to act as quickly as they can. But when you're talking about the other instances where they've just let things go for a long time and it hasn't been prioritized, that's really disappointing, especially when you're in the iOS ecosystem, you don't have alternatives, for instance, with the, with the web browser and things that you can use. And that's frustrating.
It's time for, thanks to Andy Anako, the Vision Pro segment.
What do you see? What do you know? It's time to talk the Vision Pro.
Who would have thought Andy Anako would be the chief advocate for Vision Pro content on this show?
Now, this week we actually have something to talk about finally. So that's
a big story. Friday night football.
Nope.
Football? No. Baseball.
Yep.
On Clear Hearts and Clear High. Anyway.
No, that's football. That's football.
Yeah.
The lights are brighter there.
They're doing the thing we assumed that they would do when they announced
from day
the Vision
one.
Pro.
Yeah, pull it out.
Friday
Go
Night
ahead,
Baseball
Jason. You
Immersive.
want to pull it out? I can tell you want to pull it out. Just pull it out. Go ahead.
I mean, it's right here, but it's
I know. He's handling
it's
it.
Ready to, I got to get
secretly.
ready to watch some baseball at the end of the month. So they're going to do 4 immersive baseball games.
Wow.
And the question is,
why didn't they do this a few years ago?
Well, if you can think back to when Alex was on the show, the Blackmagic camera and the live version of it took a long time to come to fruition. Okay. And that's what enabled them to do those Lakers games that they did. The big difference here is, well, there's 2 big differences. One is this is on Apple TV Plus or Apple TV now. So you won't have to have like a charter cable subscription in LA to watch the Lakers, right? Like everybody basically who has Apple TV will get to watch this if they've got a Vision Pro. And if you've got a Vision Pro and you're not paying for Apple TV, I don't even know what to tell you. Like, that seems weird. Anyway, it is, so they're going to use presumably a bunch of those Blackmagic Live cameras, and they figured out how to do it. The other big difference though is a basketball court is tiny and baseball stadiums are enormous.
Yeah, how are they going to cover it? Where do they put the cameras?
That is what I can't wait to see. Again, this is all basically like so new. It really, the reason this is interesting is it's like early days of TV, and it's like what is a TV show like? Is it just a play that we record, or do we do other things? Well, like what is an immersive baseball game? Like what makes that good? And are you sitting behind home plate? Are you in the outfield?
Can you switch?
Yeah, can you switch? Are they switching for me? Do they switch too much? Do they switch too little? They're going to have, like their NBA broadcast, they're going to have a bespoke immersive broadcast. They will have different announcers for the immersive broadcast. And they also said something fun, which is like the regular broadcast has ads. And they said, no, we're not doing ads for the immersive broadcast. The immersive broadcast, you're going to stay in the stadium. And there's going to be like stadium vibe in the stadium.
Hot dogs?
I don't know. Like,
Will there be a T-shirt cannon?
Again, leaving aside all of the baggage of the Vision Pro, I would just say, I love to see stuff like this because I don't know what they're going to do. And I love baseball and I love going to baseball games, but like there are so many different choices they could make. And I'm sure we will all debate after they start.
Will they cover it like the FIFA World Cup where they just sit with a wide angle shot on the whole stadium?
We don't know. That's the
thing.
We don't know.
And you can't be close because there's no such thing as close. The stadium is enormous.
Right.
Do they switch? Like all of that. So anyway, there's 4 of them. Starts with the Yankees, Red Sox. They got a Giants, Dodgers. They got a Giants, Padres.
They've picked good games. These are massive rivalries. The Red Sox and the Yankees, the Dodgers and the Giants. The Phillies and the Mets, the Reds at the Brewers. I mean,
no, that's too many.
Well, I'm looking at the newsroom. It says here's the schedule.
There are 4 days, Jason, but there are actually 7 games.
Yeah, these are all the games. So you're going to be able to watch. It depends on your market because I noticed this Angels at Pirates is at 6:30.
No.
Okay,
wait a minute.
At
Guardians is 7.
I'm wrong.
No, they're only doing.
I see. They put a little logo on it. There you go. Yeah. So this is the schedule.
It's on the 28th, they're doing Red Sox at Yankees. On the 4th, it's Angels at Pirates. Great stadium. 11th. Padres at Giants, great stadium. And then September 18th, the Giants at the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium in Chavez Ravine, where cows go to die. So, yeah.
I want, you know what? That's where I'm going to buy a Dodger dog and have it shipped up to me just so I can
just so you can get the full immersion.
I have been in the bleachers at Dodger Stadium with a Dodger dog, and it's a great experience.
And by the way, also, I was saying about the NBA stuff being so limited, and then they were supposed to have playbacks. I could never get the playbacks to work right. This one, it's available live and, of course, as a replay, and it's in the U.S., and Australia, Canada, Germany, Hong Kong, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and the UK. So like
baseball loves this. That's great.
In all these places, if you've got a Vision Pro, you will be able to see what would immersive baseball be like. And that's the question that, we get to have at least a first answer to starting August 28th. I love
that they also let you listen to the radio if you're in the US and Canada, the local radio. The home.
It's a nice touch for Friday Night Baseball. They got a lot of feedback. People were angry.
I hated the network announcers. I wanted to hear Ron Fairley, and I wanted to hear our local announcers, and so I used to do that. And it's hard to sync it up, and so I'm really glad that they're doing that. It's a nice feature too. I wonder how much do you think? How much this has to do with Alex Lindsay?
I'm sure he's involved to some degree. I mean, they've been experimenting with this stuff before, but he's one of the people down there who cares about this stuff. So I'm sure if he were here, he would tell us all about it.
From day one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, live sports, right, is a whole other level. And I think when we talk about the Vision Pro or a product like it and it being relevant to consumers, something like this is the way that would first happen, is like if you could do live sports really, really, really well. Live theater is another one that I keep thinking of. Like these are things that could sell a headset, maybe not a $3,500 headset, but maybe a $1,500 headset in a way that could drive some use of these kinds of products. So right now it's just an experiment, but I'm looking forward to it as a baseball fan, especially.
Now I want to start a conspiracy.
Oh, let's do it.
Because these games, some of them at least, probably 2 of them will be after the big announcements. Mm-hmm. And I noticed they're brought to you by Essilor. Okay, maybe
No,
I'm pulling
I've only
at straws, but those are the eyeglass manufacturers.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say I've only seen the Lord of the Rings movies. I haven't read all the books, so I don't know all the characters.
No, not Erebor, Essilor. I think that's Luxottica. That's their new name. That's the people who make the Ray-Bans for Meta.
I was going to say they make Meta's things. I mean,
I'm just saying maybe that's really pushing it, but Apple certainly isn't ready with glasses.
No.
Does Essilor make the lenses in your Vision Pros?
No,
I don't know.
They don't.
They don't. So why would Essilor sponsor this?
They're sponsoring Friday Night Baseball.
Yeah.
Not this particular thing, just the Friday Night Baseball run.
In general.
Getting the name out there, even though they're not.
With the first game of each weekly doubleheader presented by Essilor. And actually, the first games are only August 28th and September 4th. So
that's right.
I take it all back. Boy, you debunked that rumor fast.
Sorry.
I was going to call Mark Gurman and everything.
You just been Vision Pro'd?
I've been Vision Pro'd. By the way.
Jason Snell, Joy Popper.
Boom.
Boom. There is another
going down.
There is another Vision Pro story. Not quite as exciting as that. Andy, I'm going to let you do the honor since you found it.
Okay, well, this is a project on GitHub to allow like Android APKs for Android VR apps to be run on Vision Pro hardware.
That's
and
cool.
It's still, excuse me.
I said that's cool.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's still early days, but they say they've already got Beat Saber pretty much working, and they have also said that Steam, like if they can get the Steam VR Link library running in Toto, they say that they're working on Steam VR Link and improving generalizability, build tooling, still work in progress. But the idea of just if all that happens is people can play Beat Saber on this device, that will rescue so many of these devices from so many drawers and lead so many people to break so many wrists and fingers because it's such a great game.
It is a great game.
Most of the injuries you get from VR are like swinging a Beat Saber.
I have to admit, that's the only game I played on the Meta Quest more than once. And it was really fun.
It's a really fun game. Yeah, I mean, I love seeing a project like this. I do think that this is, to me, the saddest part of the failure of the Vision Pro is that the developer ecosystem never happened for so many reasons that we've discussed, on the show. I won't relitigate that, but it's nice that we're finally seeing, 2.5 years later, some stuff like this, because being able to run the APKs and the Quest and the Android XR stuff on Vision OS, even if it's not perfect, like that's pretty compelling. That's pretty cool. Certainly would never say you should go buy a Vision Pro for this or for baseball, but if you have it, to Andy's point, you can pull it out of the drawer now. Yeah,
and it's good. And it's good to see like people just have developers saying, "Gee, wouldn't it be great if we could do this on Vision Pro?" And then because they are clever and because they're determined, they think it's a good idea. And to be clear, this isn't running Android on Vision Pro.
Right.
Basically, there's compiled like .so libraries that are responsible for these VR apps, and this team have figured out a way to basically translate that into retrospective Apple like libraries, and that runs underneath a runtime that they've also created. So
I love it that the project is called Klepton, same root as kleptomaniac. We're stealing apps for the Vision Pro. Nice job. Actually, one of our club members, Nightscape, has apparently built. He's watching the show right now in his Vision Pro. So
that's so cool.
Nice.
People are doing stuff with vibe code. I guess you're vibe coding it, right? Nightscape. That's pretty cool. All right, one last break, and then it is your picks of the week. I'm giving you fair warning, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. Andy Anako.
Leo.
What?
Now you see, now you know, we're done talking the Vision Pro.
Again, I almost forgot.
That
Vital.
is 4 times.
The
4.
vital period at the
I'm
end of
keeping
the
a tally
sentence.
now.
I mean, if we're going to do it, we got to do it right, or we're going to get trapped in a long line of parentheses, and that's very bad.
As a
world
Lisp
ends.
programmer, I'm completely comfortable with that. Actually, I haven't coded in Lisp since AI came to town. It's
Bangjot.forever, man.
yeah, man. I tell you.
This was the AI language of the future, remember?
It
all about
was.
lists.
Now it's Go and Rust. You know, it's funny. My agents were programming furiously all last night. And I said, what was, there was review back and forth. They were going back. So what's going on? They said, it's 148 lines of Bash. I said, what are you doing working in Bash? They said, well, the original software we ported was in Bash. I said, dude, cut the pain, man, and the sanity. Go. And I said, I bet you can rewrite it in Go in about 5 minutes. And they did. So no more Bash. I said, no more Bash. Okay. Don't do that to yourselves. Also here, Christina Warren and Jason Snell. So pleased to have all of you. Jason, how's the history podcast going?
Oh man, we're going to launch with our episodes that we previewed later this month, and then the first week in September, the whole thing kicks off. Our first full series is about Apple's OS crisis, the System 7, System 8, Copeland, Gershwin, B next, the whole thing that ends up culminating in Steve Jobs standing on stage at Macworld Expo.
If you can get to the bottom of that, I have to hear that.
There's just fun stories to tell, and we have John Siracusa, who wrote all the definitive Mac OS 10 reviews in the early days. He's our guest for that.
Still has blisters on his fingers from those days.
So that's what we're kicking it off, and then we're gonna roll into the this October, November is the 25th anniversary of the iPod. So after that series, we're going to do a history of the iPod, origin story of the iPod, really. So I've been writing a lot, and we've got a lot of episodes kind of in flight right now in order to do the launch. So people can check it out, designed.fm.
Nice. Very exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Christina Warren, what's you came back from Berlin all refreshed, talking to developers and all excited. What's going on in your life there at GitHub?
Yeah, I mean, we're releasing updates to GitHub Copilot all the time. We launched the Kimi K3 model on GitHub Copilot at the end of last week.
Oh, I bet that was popular.
Yeah, definitely, and it's a very, very good model. I have to say.
Have you played with it?
Oh yeah. In fact, it's funny because one of the things that I did, because I was making the demo video, to go out on social, and I said, okay, I gave it a screenshot, and I said, okay, create a Flappy Bird style game based on the screenshot and make it GitHub themed and retro, and it was like a terminal screenshot from the GitHub CLI, and its first pass was quite good. I then wanted to refine it and make the little robot look a little bit better. But yeah, I was able to, in just a couple of minutes and very inexpensively create a fully
so
HTML5.
Cute.
Exactly.
It's so cute.
That you can play. This is live on GitHub. On my I'll put a link in the chat.
And so Kimi wrote this in one shot?
I had to go back and forth maybe twice, but the crux of it was basically one shot, which was excellent.
Wow. So it's a good coding. What did it write it in?
Just HTML and JavaScript.
Oh, that's what you said. Yeah. Wow,
and it was
wild.
Which is nice because it even put in sounds, which is actually pretty fun too. So I was basically just kind of looking for something that I do a lot of test projects where I can exactly.
That's very funny.
No, it's very good. It's very good. And usually when I'm making these videos, I build a bunch of test and toy projects. And this was one where I was so impressed with even its first shot. It wasn't completely perfect, but I said, okay, we'll make the pipes Git lines instead, and then make the robot.
Oh,
look a
they're
little
Git
more
lines.
Like
Oh, I didn't even get that.
Yeah.
This is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's dumb, and there are things that I could go back and modify with, but the fact that it took me a few minutes, and then I could just immediately deploy it to GitHub Pages.
Is amazing. It's not cheap.
No, but it's a lot cheaper than other models of its
Fable.
Class.
Yeah.
Right, or even Opus, right? Obviously, like 5.6 Sol is a really good model, and I'm not taking anything away from that, but I was very impressed. It was one of those things where I went into it with fairly low expectations, and I gave it a screenshot, went back and forth, and what I was able to get out of it, and then I've used it on some other tasks too, and I've been very, very impressed with what it can output. So
have you published Flappy Copilot somewhere?
I have. Yeah, it's on GitHub. Actually, I'll put it in the Discord.
Nice.
Trying to find my window.
Filmgirl.github.io/Flappy-Copilot.
Yep.
You can play the game.
You can play the game, and maybe I will. This would take more work, but if I deployed it to a different place and had a database layer, I could have like a high score, type of thing or whatnot. But just the fact that this was,
it's kind of mind blowing that you can just do this.
Well, the fact that, like I said, because usually I try to work on like real projects, and I wanted to show something visually, for the purpose of the video, and I was shocked. I was like, oh, okay, this actually is quite fun. This is really cute. So,
well, we live in amazing times. Kimi K3 and Copilot, and of course now you have that desktop app, makes it even easier.
Absolutely.
Or harness, I guess I should say, not a desktop app, but the Copilot harness. What do you call it?
Well, I mean, we call it the GitHub Copilot. I mean, it is the harness, but it's the desktop app. It's basically the same thing as the GitHub Copilot CLI, which is the harness.
Right.
But we've created a desktop app, a desktop application that you can use on Mac, Windows, and Linux to maintain your sessions and preview things and whatnot. And like that was actually kind of part of the fun. As I was building it, it loads up the web server automatically, so I can test it out as it's going back and forth. And that's when I was able to basically be like, okay, this is great, but let's refine this a little bit. Let's make the pipes get lines. Let's make the robot look a little bit like that. And
one of the things I love about these harnesses is the ability to retain the session and go back to it. So all the context is there, and you can just pick it up. I think that's really a nice convenience, quality of life feature.
It's nice too because, and this is the case not just on our harness, but on a lot of them. But like the sessions will maintain themselves, and you can pick them up from other devices too, and from other services. So for instance, if I start something in my on my computer, I can also use VS Code, or I can pick up those sessions as long as I have the remote kind of thing enabled. Then I'm able to resume those sessions even from another device, which is really nice.
That's really nice. Yeah. My Quicksilver told me the other day I have 22 gigabytes of sessions, and that maybe I would like to prune that tree at some point. I said, well, it's a 4 terabyte drive. I guess we can leave it for a while. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. Time for our picks of the week. And I think Jason Snell should kick this off. Hi, Jason.
Sure. I get a lot of newsletters. A lot of people do that now. There's newsletters. Substack sort of started something, but
everybody's got a newsletter now.
Everybody's got a little newsletter, a Substack, a button down, a ghost, whatever. They're all over the place. And I was thinking to myself, and I think I made a joke on a podcast where I said, probably shouldn't do this, but it's an interesting idea. Like, what if you made a reader app, or put it as an email client for newsletters?
Ooh,
what if you did that?
I like that. That's a good idea.
And somebody did. It's called Letterbox with 2 X's at letterbox.app. It's in the App Store. It's a Mac app right now. I think he's working on an iPad and iOS or iPad and iPhone app. But this is what it is. If you look, I don't think mail clients are good for reading. I think they're kind of unpleasant. They're for email. They're certainly not for newsletters. And so you can do a few things. I pipe them into RSS for the most part now. I do it that way and then use an RSS reader. But this is an actually really good idea, which is maybe instead of just having an email client for email, you also have a newsletter reader client, and it looks at your email and it'll follow rules and it'll find the newsletters that you want where you want them. And then you can just scan around and read those newsletters in the app. And if email is going to be your content delivery medium, maybe try an email client that's designed to help your reading be better, your reading experience. It's just a really good idea. I like this idea a lot because I read a lot of stuff in newsletters now. And again, email client is not the place to do it. It just isn't. It's just not very good in an email client. So Letterbox is a really interesting idea. I hope the developer keeps going with it because I find a lot of my best content these days comes from newsletters I subscribe to. And in fact, as RSS feeds from a lot of big commercial news organizations fade away, one of the things you can do is subscribe to their newsletter, which is a daily list of links or whatever, however often, about the subject you're interested in. And I do that for the newspapers I subscribe to now, is I just get their newsletter because then I can tap on all those links to read those articles. So the newsletter ends up being the front end instead of the RSS. Not ideal. I like RSS, but it's not a bad fallback. And, again, don't read your newsletters. in an email client, that's not a good reading experience. So Letterboxd, it's a nice idea.
This is very cool.
Right.
And you know who else likes this? All those newsletter people who are sending me newsletters. They're just ending up in a pile.
Right?
In my
Well,
email client.
And so you don't have to manage them like you manage email now. You manage them like you manage a Reader app because your Reader app looks at it.
Right.
I love this. I've had the same idea before, Jason. Like, I've literally thought this to myself. I really wish that I had an app just for my newsletters. And
Right.
The closest I've come is using Feedbin, where I basically kind of tried to assign things
That's what
to
I
an
do.
email address and forward it and use it that way. And that's okay. But I like this. You can either use a dedicated email or you can connect it to your own thing. I think this is great. This
It's a good idea,
Yeah, it's
right?
a really
Like,
good
as
idea.
absurd as it is to say an email client for newsletters, actually think of it more like Instapaper or some other, or an
Yes.
RSS reader, using email as the transmission
as the delivery
medium.
method. Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, it's funny because I had, when I was thinking about this idea, I'm glad that someone else did it. I was like, well, what do I call this? A newsreader? And then I was like, that's actually kind of funny that we're almost going back in time, to like the, Usenet of old, which I don't actually even have any real experience with other than downloading things illegally off the internet. I never actually used a newsreader for mailing lists, but it feels like, well, that made sense, right? There was like a dedicated application for that type of communication, and instead,
How does it know that it's a newsletter? I mean,
think
it's presumably getting your email, right?
It's looking for some
through it.
signals, and also I think you can set it up to like look in particular labels or mailboxes or follow rules, or set it to senders and say this is a newsletter, and then build your newsletter kind of subscription list that way. Yeah. It's a good idea.
Very cool. I like that idea. Andy Anako, your pick of the week.
My pick is a kind of a treat that I bought for myself. I've got I do have subscriptions to streaming services. However, like the truth, as the saying goes for cloud stream, is always like my physical media collection of like music that I've ripped or downloaded and put on my media server, because I feel as though I don't want to have to. I'm happy to pay Spotify X dollars a month for access to every single piece of music that's ever available if I want to just sample stuff. But the thing is, like, I want to make sure that my David Bowie albums, I'm never required to pay money to get access to all the music that I've deemed like worthy of actually owning. And so I decided to upgrade my Sony Walkman. So I thanks to the MBW Picks site, I found out that my previous Sony Walkman, the NWA55, was a pick in episode 700. I've upgraded now to the NWA306 Sony Walkman. This is actually made by Sony. It is a Sony Walkman product. And it is like, in Mac terms or Apple terms, this is like it is like the iPod that used to run iOS. This actually runs Android.
An iPod Touch kind of thing.
Thank you very much. The iPod Touch, which I don't know why. I wish they would bring that back, because this device reminds me of exactly how useful that sort of thing is. The old player that I had was, again, it was not Android, but didn't have an app store with it. It just had a built-in music player, which is great. But the thing is, like, this runs Android, so it means that not only can it run, it comes with the Sony Walkman app, but also if I want to replace it with a better music app like Musicolet, then I can replace it with whatever music app I want. And because it has a micro SD slot that accepts cards of up to 1 terabyte, I literally have every album every track of music I have ever collected accessible on shuffle play on this device, and unlike the previous one, this is actually quite sprightly. But not only that, but I also have Spotify on this, and my downloaded playlist. I have Apple Music on this. I have the Audible music player on this. I even have YouTube on it because it can actually play video. Not really well, but it can play video. Like if I want to download like an audiobook that's been posted on YouTube, I can do that just fine. It runs the Google Play Store, so I also have Google Drive installed on it, and Dropbox, so that if I have music that's basically in the cloud, because again, I can install any music player app I want, I can point it at that cloud storage folder, and I can basically stream from any cloud file folder that I want. Basically, it means that no matter how you enjoy music, this will play it for you. Now, you might ask, well, that's
not
great,
cheap, is it?
No,
it's
but
not
although
cheap.
it's cheaper than it used to be.
Oh,
It's cheap. It's well, again, it depends on your version of cheap. But just to wind things up, I mean, the question is always going to be, well, you have a phone that can also run iOS or run Android. Why bother like getting a separate device? Particularly in this day and age, to get enough storage to put like several hundred gigabytes of music on it. The idea of I don't want to just sync certain albums or certain playlists. I want everything available on this. Ask yourself how much it's going to cost for 512 gigabytes of storage or more, like on a phone. But the other thing is that this is my phone, and this is the Walkman. It is more portable. It's more tiny, but also on top of all of that, it is a music player. It has a headphone jack. It also has dedicated like push buttons on the side for volume up, volume down, skip tracks, things like that. And the number of times when, even when I'm just streaming to like my home stereo or my home speakers, to just like pick this up like it's a remote control and just click a next track button, there's just something that's a lot more satisfying about it. I also really like the fact that this is a separate device with a separate battery, so that I'm not basically wasting battery on this. I'm also not getting notifications on this because I don't have any social media apps or messaging apps on it. Downsides, you didn't say the bad part, which is that this lists at $399. That I will use that opportunity to say that you can buy even higher fidelity versions of this kind of thing for $1,000. Even Sony makes some that are close, but those are the audiophile, like balanced gold, solid gold, whatever. But you can also buy, if you don't want something quite as ambitious as this, there are Android-based music players from manufacturers you might not actually recognize, like FiO or Hi-Bi, that can actually cost $100 or less, and they're not nearly as feature-rific as this, and they're a lot slower than this, but it will still allow you to play local music. It will still allow you to install Spotify or Apple Music. It'll work just fine. Other disadvantages is that battery management is that of a phone-style device, meaning that there are always, even if I put it into, I would love to be able to turn this with the old machine, because it was just a music player. If I actually powered it off in 2 weeks' time, I could power it back on again, and I would still have my 72% battery left. On this one, it is like any other device that you've got that runs an operating system, where I power it off, and then if I come back to it 4 or 5 days later, the battery's dead because there was some sort of a process in the background waiting to light the screen up in case I touch a button or something. So that's a bummer. It's not a debilitating bummer, but it's the sort of thing where I have to kind of remember to put it on the charger, like before I board like a Amtrak for 3 or 4 hours, or at least bring my battery pack with me. Also, if you're expecting this to be as lively as a phone, it is older lower power hardware, so it's not as responsive as you would find on a modern device, but it's responsive enough. It's perfectly fine. Again, if you were looking for the ability to play lots and lots and lots of music files that you own, all the way up to the most highest definition files that you can get, even streaming to high definition earphones with spatial audio, this will handle all of that, which is something that the cheaper ones won't do. It runs Android 13, even though we're on Android 17, but that's not a big deal because most of the stuff that Android updates is actually now done through the Google Play Store. So, and in addition to that, even though this is not like 2026 hardware, I think this hardware came out like about 3-4 years ago. Sony is actively updating this. I got my last firmware update just about a month ago. So again, and also it is a nicely it feels like a Sony product. It's aluminum. It's really nice fit and finish. Like USB-C, so you don't have to worry about crazy connectors. The $100 ones are a lot more affordable, but they're very, very, cheap, plasticky feeling sort of stuff. It's not going to be for everybody, but for someone like me, I get a lot of pleasure out of this because there's something, maybe it's because of my age, but there's something about, I've got a dedicated player that has music on it. When I listen to music, I pick this up and scroll through playlists or scroll through my albums and play things, as opposed to picking up my phone, getting past my Notes app, getting past my Instagram, getting past all this sort of stuff. So like I said, not for everybody, but if you're looking for something, I think this is a nice happy medium between the cheap ones that aren't very performant and don't really have many features, and the $1,000 ones where it's like, what if you can afford $1,000 pocket music player, why are you not like just hiring Jack White to just follow you around and play guitar as you walk down the street. That's where I fit. That's where I am.
Dun, 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 dun. Christina, I have my pick of the week just arrived in the mail, but I want to give Christina Warren her due. It's your chance for the pick of the week.
Okay, well, I have two. One is actually inspired by Andy's because, and I appreciate the extensive review on that, Andy, because I've bought previous versions of that Walkman before, and for single purpose devices, yeah, they're downsized, but I think they're pretty fun. So my first pick was, this is a skill that I don't think should have to exist, and this is niche, but Leo, you might appreciate this. This is if you haven't added this to your coding stuff already, it's an AI skill, and it's called I Have ADHD. And it is basically a way to stop your coding agent from being super verbose and burying the answer.
I don't know this. I need it.
It's great. It's great. And so basically what it does is that it follows 10 rules, and these 10 rules have been basically kind of I guess adapted from one of the known like ADHD kind of guidebooks. And so the full skill is basically, lead with the next action, number multi-step tasks, end with one concrete next step, suppress tangents, restate every turn, specific time estimates, make wins visible, matter-of-fact errors, cap the list at 5 items, no preamble, no recap, no closers. And you can tune it, if you want to, do that too. If you want to make your own kind of modifications, you can do that as well. But this is something... this should not have to exist.
but it does.
But
I'll
it does.
admit it.
And honestly, since I've installed it, and I'm not a huge, there are too many skills at certain points, and you can get kind of bloated with them. But this is one that I have actually found that I really like, because
We should mention that a skill is simply text.
it's just text. It's basically just kind of giving an instruction. In some cases, it means you're going to be running, a certain shell script or something else. And in other cases, it's text and kind of instructions. But the fact that you could have this, so if you're running, Claude Code or GitHub Copilot or Codex
I'm giving it right
anything
now to
else,
my agent. Yep.
Yeah, I really like it. It has definitely improved my output, and I spend a lot of time in an editor. But my second pick, I'll just say this briefly.
It's hysterical. It's based on a kit for humans called
that's
the
what I'm
Adult
saying.
ADHD Toolkit.
Exactly.
That's hysterical.
Which I think is excellent. I was like, you know what? Love it. I love it. And I am ADHD, so I do appreciate, the
Yes,
skill.
I'm going to put this in my brain. Yeah.
But even if you're completely neurotypical, I think that this leads to better output. But my second pick, if Andy's $400 MP3 player is too rich for your blood, but you still want to listen to music in really dumb way, and I'm not saying Andy's way is dumb, because Andy's way is actually the opposite of dumb.
I have this same product. I endorse it.
Yeah, I have this product too. So this is a Maxell wireless Bluetooth cassette player that has USB-C, fast charging, and a built-in battery. It also has a headphone jack. It has actually pretty good battery life, 11 hours or so is what they claim. And my experience, I don't listen to a lot of cassette tapes, because who listens to cassette tapes? But you know what? I have a lot of cassette tapes because Taylor Swift and Olivia Rodrigo and other artists.
You never threw them out? Oh, they're new.
No.
They're new.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a whole thing. They'll release multiple editions, and the recent. I know, but and then the thing is, I don't even open them, Leo, because I have problems. But honestly, the secondary market is really high on some of these things. I won't sell my vinyl, but I think I will sell my cassettes at a certain point. But I have listened to a few, and I have to say, being able to have your AirPods in and listen to a cassette tape is kind of a vibe. So if you don't want to spend $400 on listening to 20-year-old technology, MP3s, you can spend $80 to listen to 40-year-old technology in much lower fidelity. But hey, it has USB-C. So
this does something that Andy's fancy dang player won't do. When you're running down, doing your little jog, this thing warbles as you run. It's great.
Exactly. It's great. It's exactly. It absolutely. It's gonna. Well, no. Well, it won't warble. The tape won't warble, but might get caught. Like your CD player would warble. But yeah, no. This thing, you're gonna have to switch sides.
I had a Walkman. Let me tell you, when the Walkman came out 40 years ago or whatever, it was that expensive. It was as much as Andy's. It was $400 or $500.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I mean they were incredible, and CDs were expensive, and there was
no.
Not
I had
really
a cassette Walkman.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But I'm saying 40 years ago, CDs existed, but they were expensive, and tapes were like the way to kind of do it. And so if you want to go back in time and be like, oh, I have to switch sides now. Hey, $80. It's great.
I know that it has a USB-C port. Is that just for charging, or can you use it to convert your tapes to MP3s? Because
it's just for charging. If you could convert it, I think it unfortunately would cost more than $80 to have that.
So I've been waiting all morning. I kept getting the messages that I was going to be getting a special package, and I disappeared for a bit because I ran downstairs because it came, and I'm so excited. It is my new Mac for $30. This is a Mac clock. The Coco Goal. Yep. Now it looks like the one I got looks like the box is kind of beat up, but maybe that's just, I don't know. I don't know if it's used or not. I haven't turned it on yet. It's nice and big, unlike that little baby Mac I have back there, which actually boots macOS. This is just a clock.
Oh, this is so cute.
But it's cute. I'm going to put this right on my desk. I can't wait. So I haven't yet turned it on. It has a USB-C port, and it has a disc. I don't know what's in the disc, but it has a little floppy disk.
This is adorable.
1.44 megabyte floppy disk right there, just coming.
And Leo, you'll be pleased to know that ever since this became really, really widely available, there are many projects that will allow you to convert that into a working Mac.
Oh my God, you're kidding!
At an ESP32.
It's an ESP32. See, everything's
amazing.
Everything's ESP32.
I love the ESP32. It's awesome.
I do too. I have so many of them.
I do. I have them all over the place and various badges and stuff.
3 more of these so I could put them all over the house, which Lisa's not going to like, but it doesn't have a camera.
Yeah, I can't stop buying the ESP32 e-readers.
Look at you.
Yes.
Oh, I got the new Pro.
I love those too, yeah.
I just got the Pro.
New
I'm
Pro
very
is
excited.
right here. That's got a backlight on it. I love those. ESP32, what can it do?
You told me not to do the stuff, the XTE Inc. firmware and use Crosspoint. Are you still using Crosspoint, or is there anything better?
It's so good.
Crosspoint's the one.
Is the one. Yeah, and they're building a plug-in architecture for it, and it's so good. Yeah.
Oh, it's great. I'm going to put that on there because I just got it. And then there's something else came in the mail, and I don't know what this is, but I got this thing, and what's weird is I got it. 2 of them came, so I don't know what I'm going to do with this, Christina, but I'll find something to do with these little boxes. We'll probably talk about this tomorrow.
You're so lucky, man. That's fantastic.
Not lucky.
Well,
it cost me more than a car, but other than that,
yes, but they're hard to get, man. Even costing more than a car, they're.
I bit the bullet because I really want to be local. Anyway, it's their DGX Sparks, and I have 2 of them now, and I hope I do, because when you buy these things, you hope that there's one in the box, that it's not just a brick. I didn't get it on eBay, so maybe I'll get it from India. So anyway, that's our picks of the week. That's our show, everybody. Thank you for being here. We appreciate your kind support and your kind attendance to this show. We do MacBreak Weekly every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, if Leo shows up on time. I'm okay. I'm going to admit it. I kept running downstairs to see if my clock came. That would be 2 p.m. Eastern Time. That would be 1800 UTC. You can watch it live if you're in Club Twit, of course, in the Club Twit Discord. But if you can't get there, you can always watch us on YouTube, Twitch, X.com, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Kick. We stream on 7 different platforms. After the fact, you don't have to stream it. You can watch anytime at your convenience. We have copies of the show, audio and video, at our website, twit.tv/mbw. There is a YouTube channel with the video also dedicated to MacBreak Weekly. Actually, you'll find all of our show's YouTube channels at the main headquarters, which is youtube.com/twit. And then, of course, you can subscribe in your favorite podcast client. That'll do it. That's the way to get it. And then you don't have to even think about it. You just have it the minute it's done. Christina Warren is Film Girl at GitHub and everywhere else in the world. So great to have you, Christina. If you ever want to come over and touch my sparks, you can.
Thank you.
Andy Anako, I hope you have a wonderful time couch surfing. So great to see you. Of course, follow Andy at his website, ihnatko.com, ihnatko.com, and become a member and support this ink-stained wretch in his daily trials. Jason Snell, he's now a media mogul at sixcolors.com with many podcasts at sixcolors.com/Jason. And he's got lots of ink and lots of colors. And you, of all of us, will likely get an invitation in the next few weeks.
I don't know. iPhone's a hard event. I didn't get an invitation last year, so we'll see.
But you got in, didn't you, or no?
No. Last year,
Oh.
I've been working it. It is the toughest ticket. So
It's all
we'll see
those
if I get it.
influencers, damn them. I don't
is.
know. You know,
It is. They've shifted.
They're
Gosh
very
darn it.
influential.
Should we start like every time because we are streaming
We're
on YouTube.
influencers, ladies and gentlemen.
We should. Well, our problem is that we don't like start the show by saying, "Hey guys."
Hey guys, like and subscribe. You know, every month, more than 250,000 people listen to this damn show, and I feel like that's an important number.
That's
Pretty good.
Very good.
That's all right. I'll never get to go to another Apple event, but that's okay. I have my little baby Mac here.
Well, I
Maybe,
mean,
is it time to do like because people after the Sundance Film Festival got like really popular and like a lot of different like creators were getting shut out, they just started to host Slam Dance Festival at the same time in the same city. Should we like do our own like Apple event like at the same day for people who do not get
Competing event across the street in Cupertino at the Wagon Wheel Restaurant.
Yeah.
By the way, I just realized
separate checks, everybody, separate checks.
this is the funniest thing. There is instructions on the top on how to insert the diskette in case you don't know. Maybe it does something. Maybe it's functional. I don't know, but don't put it in backwards.
I think it activates a switch or something. But my fun part was that I see it advertised all the time, and in the ads it doesn't have the Apple logo, does not have like the Macintosh branding, but like the sticker set contains like as an alternative to the not Apple logo that goes into the Apple logo slot. Oh well, there's an Apple logo here if you want to put the Apple logo in that.
Oh, let me see if I have
don't know
a
which
sticker.
version of it is.
Oh,
there's supposed to be a disc label that's a reproduction of the. Yeah.
They're sort of Apple logos, sort of 6-colory logos. Very clear. And it looks like it has a disc hub, a disc shutter, a disc label, front logo. Yeah, they're not an Apple, but they are 6 colors.
Some makers will include on the sheet like we couldn't put that in the ad, but
don't
here's
tell
an Apple
anybody,
logo,
but we've got 6 colors. Emmerich says, with all the Apple negativity on this show, Leo will never be invited to another Apple event. Are we negative?
We're honest. We're not like that.
Not allowed.
Well, I mean, I think that like people like Jason who have earned a lot of respect, understandably, like are able to toe that line, and Apple is willing to overlook certain things. But I think unfortunately,
John Turnus will never grace our microphones, I'm afraid.
Hey, he is my LinkedIn friend.
Leo.
He is your LinkedIn friend.
He is my LinkedIn friend.
Wow. Pretty fancy.
We ride at the gates of dawn, Leo, and we take no prisoners. We're very famous for that, and that's what the titans of industry fear most.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next week on MacBreak Weekly. And now, as I have said for these many years, it is my sad and solemn duty to tell you, get back to work, because break time is over. Bye-bye.